Chapter 1290, The Fickleness of Human Nature. 1. I don't know if Miss has any other questions, but as long as I can do it, I will do my best. Zheng Yan said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. At this moment, his fear of Leng Ruoxue had risen to a whole new level. After all, he had taken out half of his family's savings that he had accumulated over the years for this compensation. However, who knew that she was still not satisfied? Sob. This was really too detestable. This was clearly a lion's mouth. This group of vampires. Now, he didn't have any hope of earning their money. He only hoped to get rid of them as soon as possible. Unfortunately, these people were obviously not that easy to get rid of. President Singh, I'll tell you the truth. We don't lack this bit of money, so if you really want to compensate us, then show me your sincerity. You're clearly trying to send us away casually. Moreover, I don't have any problem with this. What I want to see is President Zheng's sincerity. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Ah. Can young lady speak more clearly? Zheng Yan asked shamelessly. He really didn't want to play hide-and-seek with them anymore. Can't you just say what you want? Wu, this group of evil scoundrels. Guild leader Zheng, what is the highest authority you can do in the Guild of Missions? Leng Ruoxue asked indifferently. I can accept any mission or commission as long as I pay enough money. Zheng Yan frowned as he thought. What else? Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. There's nothing else, Zheng Yan said hurriedly. You really don't have any more. President Zheng, do you need to think carefully? You're getting a little forgetful when you get old. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Ah. Zheng Yan broke out in a cold sweat. In fact, he still didn't quite understand what the woman in front of him meant, or it could be said that he didn't think in any other way at all. Do you need me to remind President Zheng? Leng Ruoxue looked at Zheng Yan with her beautiful eyes. Miss, please tell me directly. I really can't think of anything. Zheng Yan was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on his forehead. These people were really too difficult to serve. They wanted him to compensate and make his own guess. How could there be such people? If I'm not wrong, the other purpose of the Mission Guild is to collect information about the major families. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. How did Miss know? Zheng Yan was secretly surprised. Other than the guild leaders of the Mission Guild, the ordinary staff members didn't know about this. They often mixed this matter with the mission and let others do it, so they had never revealed any clues. Therefore, he really couldn't think of how this beautiful woman in front of him had guessed it. I guessed it. The Quest Guild has branches in every major city, and the quests they take on every day are extremely complicated, so it's not hard to guess. More importantly, the Quest Guild belongs to the God Lord's estate, so it's not hard to understand your purpose. It's also quite normal. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Please read on website, myboxen0vel. The Master God was the true master of the divine world. The 8 great divine domains, including all the clans in the divine world, were theoretically considered the Master God's subjects. However, the Master God was different from the royal families in the lower realm because other than maintaining the normal order of the divine world, the Master God basically did not care about anything. Hence, the 8 great divine domains had appeared in the divine world. However, judging from the current situation, although the Master God did not really care about anything, everything in the divine world was still within his control. Moreover, based on her understanding of this God Lord, the God Lord of the divine world was clearly not worthy of his name. On the surface, he did not care about anything, but in reality, his desire to control was incomparably strong. I wonder what Miss wants me to do? Zheng Yan asked in disbelief. Actually, after hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, he had already guessed her motive. However, he was unwilling to say those words because once he did, it would mean that he would have to have an unclear relationship with these people forever. This was something that he absolutely did not want to see. Furthermore, if the Divine Lord's Manor found out about this, he could forget about continuing as the president. President Zheng, you're just pretending to be confused. Since that's the case, there's nothing more for us to talk about. You can go back now. Leng Ruoxue said angrily. After she finished speaking, she even asked him to leave. Miss, don't be like this. Let's discuss this. Zheng Yan said hurriedly. He didn't expect such a beautiful woman to turn hostile so quickly. It was too terrifying. President Zheng is so insincere, what else do we have to talk about? Also, you can take back the compensation. We're not beggars, we don't need you to send us off. Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly. As soon as Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, Feng De and Cheng Wu immediately went to Zheng Yan's side and threw him out of the room. After Zheng Yan was thrown out, the master of the Ning family calmly said, Shui, you want the information he has? He. Why did this girl have the same thoughts as him? Could this be the so-called, if we're not family, we won't enter the same door? He couldn't help but think to himself. Yes. Although Zheng Yan has been the president for many years, he doesn't have much on him. Instead of robbing him, we might as well ask for something more useful to us. Leng Ruoxue explained. Actually, she wanted to get information about the Divine Master's estate directly. However, she was afraid that it would scare Zheng Yan and she also thought that he would not know about it. Hence, she took a roundabout route and planned to slowly get more useful information from Zheng Yan. Girl, even though your idea is good, he's only the president of a branch in the godly mainland. He doesn't know much, so I'm afraid we can't get any useful information from him. The Great Elder reminded after some thought. Great Elder, it's precisely because his position is not high that we can make better use of and control him. When his position slowly rises, do you think we want no more? Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. The more insignificant a person was, the greater their desire for power would be. Hence, she believed that as long as she gave Zheng Yan enough benefits, he would definitely be of use to her. All she had to do was to help Zheng Yan rise to a higher position. That was all. Although she didn't have this idea in the first place, it was obviously better than robbing Zheng Yan directly. After all, this was for the long term. Chapter 1291, The Fickleness of Human Nature, 2, You mean you still want to help him continue to climb up? The Great Elder and the Master of the Ning family looked at each other and said in unison. Although the Master of the Ning family also wanted to get some information about the other families from Zheng Yan, neither he nor the Great Elder had thought of supporting Zheng Yan. After all, their status was too high. There were countless small figures like Zheng Yan in the divine world, so he was naturally not worthy of their attention. It could be said that they had never thought about this. However, Leng Ruoxue's idea brightened their eyes. It was a great idea. In that case, wouldn't Zheng Yan have to listen to them? Of course, we'll help him continue to climb up. However, the premise of helping him is to see if he's tactful and worth our help. If we help an ungrateful person, then wouldn't our efforts be in vain? Leng Ruoxue chuckled. He didn't dare to be ungrateful. At most, he could just make him sign a blood contract. We're not that easy to make use of. The Master of the Ning family said with a wretched smile. Girl, your idea is good, but you've already chased Zheng Yan out. Will he come back? The Great Elder asked worriedly. He now felt that Zheng Yan was a good chess piece. Don't worry, he'll be back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to climb from a waiter to the position of president. He knows what is the best choice for him, but he likes to play dumb. So, we might as well give him the cold shoulder for a few days, and he will naturally give in. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Ha ha ha. Little girl, leave the rest to me. It'll make that Zheng Yan suffer. The Master of the Ning family also said with an evil smile. Alright, then he'll be waiting to watch a good show. Leng Ruoxue understood. Her godfather was planning to put pressure on Zheng Yan. Sure enough, in the next few days, Zheng Yan's tough days came. First, he was inexplicably demoted to a waiter by the association. It was said that he had accidentally offended a big shot in the divine world, and the waiter of the association took the opportunity to take his position. Now, the relationship between the two was reversed. As the saying goes, a new official takes on 3 fires when he takes office, and Zheng Yan naturally became the first target of the waiter who was successful. As long as it was a tiring and complicated task, it was guaranteed that Zheng Yan would be the one to complete it. Moreover, he did not stop and did not have a moment to rest. Although Zheng Yan knew that the other party was a villain who had achieved success and wanted to take the opportunity to take revenge, he could not figure out which big shot from the divine realm he had offended. Although he had thought that it could be the Qi family or Leng Ruoxue, the Mission Guild was under the jurisdiction of the Divine Master's estate. They should not have such power. When he thought of this, he immediately dispelled his suspicions of Leng Ruoxue. As for whether it was the Qi clan's doing, he was not sure. Unless the Qi clan's old ancestors stepped in, the Mission Association would not give any face to the Qi clan. Moreover, he did not know that the mother and daughter from the Second Alliance had attacked the Qi clan's courtyard. So, the Qi clan would not blame him for it. The more he thought about it, the more he didn't know who was dealing with him. AI. Forget it, I won't think about it. Zheng Yan heaved a heavy sigh and felt depressed. He really did not know when he would be able to live like this. Thanks unknowingly, Zheng Yan had walked to the door of a restaurant. Just as he was about to enter, he was stopped by the waiter at the door. I'm sorry, President Zheng. This little store can't afford to entertain you. Please go to another house for a meal. The waiter stood in front of Zheng Yan and said. Then, he smiled and said apologetically, I'm sorry. I forgot that you're not the president now, waiter Zheng. You. Hearing the waiter's condescending words, Zheng Yan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He really didn't expect that the waiter, who used to smile at him, would turn hostile immediately after he was no longer the president. After all, he was a regular customer of this shop. He really had no human touch. He couldn't help but think to himself angrily. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he was stopped by the waiter. Waiter Zheng, you should go back to your own home and cook. No restaurant in Bamboo City is willing to serve you now. The waiter kindly reminded. The news that he had offended a big shot in the divinity had probably spread throughout the entire godly land. Under such circumstances, whoever got involved with him would be in trouble. Therefore, they were naturally afraid. They would rather not receive this old customer than let him affect the business of their store. This situation continued for a few days. Not only the restaurants were not willing to accept him, but almost all the shops were not willing to see him. He sent people to buy things, but no one dared to sell them, afraid that his shop would be implicated by him. After knowing this situation, his heart went cold. In just a few days, he had tasted the fickleness of human nature. Although he had long known that the divine world was a terrifying place, his luck had always been good for many years. Therefore, he had never thought that such a situation would happen to him, which made him feel a little disheartened. That night, Leng Ruoxue and the demon, who felt that the time was right, came to visit personally. This time, there were only the two of them. In the living room of the Zheng Manor, Leng Ruoxue sat on a chair and looked at the haggard and exhausted Zheng Yan. She smiled and asked, how has President Zheng been these days? I'm no longer the guild master of Ing City's Missions Guild. Don't you know that, miss? Zheng Yan said weakly. The events of the past few days had dealt him a huge blow. Of course I know. Everything about you is within my control. I also know why you were replaced. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. How did you know? Could it be that you? Zheng Yan was shocked and his face was full of disbelief. Although he had once doubted the woman in front of him, he did not believe that she had such great power. One should know that even the direct descendant of the Qi family could not do such a thing, but this woman in front of him had done it. This made him deeply afraid because he knew that this was what the woman in front of him had said. She was not satisfied with his sincerity, so, she had sent him from heaven to hell. How could there be such a terrifying woman? Have you thought it through, President Zheng? That's right, it was me who ordered it. However, this is only a small punishment for you. If I really wanted to kill you, it would be easier than stepping on an ant. Do you believe me? Leng Ruoxue said with a smile that was not a smile. The smile on her face grew even more radiant. Actually, this was naturally the result of Godfather's orders. Chapter 1292, The Fickleness of Human Relationships, 3, I do. I didn't expect young lady to have such strength. It's all this Tsing's fault for being blind. I don't know if it's too late for this Tsing to repent now. Zheng Yan asked expectantly. He was not a fool. In fact, he was a very smart person who could judge the situation. After hearing the other party's words, he also knew the purpose of the other party's visit. The other party did not want to kill him. Otherwise, he would not have come here in the middle of the night. That will depend on what President Tsing does. If I can let you die, I can naturally let you live. I can even let you sit in a higher position and have greater power. Therefore, everything depends on President Tsing's own choice. I won't force you, but I have to say the ugly words first. I don't lack your little compensation. So, if you can't satisfy me, then your days from now on will be like this. Leng Ruoxue laughed. After he finished speaking, he stood up and continued, President Tsing, I'll give you 3 days to think it over. You know what I want. Let's go, you demon. Thanks. When Zheng Yan saw that the other party was about to leave, he hurriedly stood in front of the two of them. Miss, please wait. I don't have to think about it anymore. No matter what you want me to do, I'll agree to it. I really don't want to live like this anymore. I'll go crazy. Zheng Yan said with a long face. In fact, he had no choice but to agree. After experiencing the past few days of suffering, he needed power and status more than ever. He didn't want to take other people's opinions anymore, or else he would rather die. Chapter 1293, Cannon Fodder, 1, Isn't that normal? If it's not related to her, who would come here? Leng Ruoxue laughed lightly and said matter-of-factly. Miss, are there any people who have tender feelings for women among these people? What if we sell the mother and daughter to them, and they become soft-hearted and can't bear to torture them? Wouldn't that be a waste of our efforts? Feng De said, a little worried. See for yourself. Leng Ruoxue laughed as she spoke. With that, she passed Feng De a name list. On it was a detailed record of the people who had come to attend the auction, as well as their history with the mother and daughter. Feng De was dumbfounded after reading the list. He didn't know what to say, because everyone on the list was inextricably linked to the mother and daughter of the Second League. There were many women on the list, and women's jealousy and hatred towards women had never been justified. Miss, Zheng Yan is indeed the president of the Mission Guild. This is the first time I've seen such a detailed list. Feng De said, speechless. Are you at ease now? Leng Ruoxue laughed. It was undeniable that Zheng Yan was a rather smart person. Previously, he had asked her to take a look at the list, but she had actually not looked at it. After all, if one were to use someone, one should not doubt them. If she had to do such a small thing personally, she would be exhausted to death. After that, Zheng Yan sent someone to send over a more detailed record, and what Zheng Yan did was exactly what she wanted. Hee hee. I wonder who will bid for the mother and daughter. Feng De's face was full of anticipation. You'll know when the time comes. Leng Ruoxue smiled mysteriously. The auction this time around was very different from the rest. Well, then I'll wait and see. If the person who bid for them doesn't satisfy me, I'll buy them. Feng De said with a smirk. Don't worry, we will be satisfied. Leng Ruoxue said confidently. With the start of the auction, Zheng Yan had specially sent the most eloquent person in their mission guild to preside over the auction. The host stood on the stage and looked at the guests below the stage and in the private rooms. He felt extremely uneasy and afraid. Why were these people staring at him like tigers? He wasn't their prey, so they didn't have to stare at him like that. He was really scared. In fact, he was overthinking it. The person was not staring at him, but the extremely embarrassed mother and daughter behind him. Why aren't you starting? Hurry up and start. Don't dawdle, our time is precious. Seeing the host's obviously unnatural expression, someone in the audience couldn't help but shout. Ma. Well, start immediately. The host stammered, Woo, these people are all like wolves and tigers. What a big pair. He sneaked a glance at the private room upstairs, but unfortunately, he was ignored by the president. Zheng Yan was currently sitting in the private room next to Leng Ruoxu's. He was looking at the main hall through the crystal glass window of the private room. However, he could only choose to ignore his subordinate's pleading gaze. He couldn't possibly head down and personally host the auction, right? The host of this auction had also been carefully selected by him, but he didn't expect that he would be so useless. AI. He could not help but sigh. After a long while, the host saw that there was no way to ask for help, so he had to force himself to start the opening speech. However, he was interrupted by the people sitting below the stage. Thanks, cut the crap. It's not like we've never been to an auction before. You can just start the auction. Someone shouted impatiently. Ah. All right then. The mother and daughter behind me will be sold as a package. The starting price will be 1 piece of low-grade crystal. Whoever offers the highest price will get it. You can start bidding now. The host wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said speechlessly, sigh. He could be considered as someone who had seen a lot and had seen many big scenes. However, this was the first time he had seen someone who was so eager to bid. As the depressed MC's voice fell, the fierce bidding began. 2 pieces. 3 pieces. 5. The crowd below the stage reported their prices one by one. It was unknown if they had a tacit understanding between them. Or was it because of some other reason? All of them had bid 1 lower-grade crystal more than the previous bidder, and no one in the box had opened their mouth to bid yet. Seeing this situation, the host was extremely depressed. If they kept shooting like this, they didn't know if they could sell the mother and daughter today. Sigh. Please don't let it fall into your hands. However, he was even more afraid that the mother and daughter would die in his hands. The bidding price rose little by little. After an hour, it finally rose to 1,000 low-grade crystal stones. When the host saw this, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the mother and daughter were finally sold for a good price. Although the price was still astonishingly low, and he had never sold them at such a low price before, it was already very good that someone wanted the mother and daughter who looked like they were on the verge of death. At the same time, in Leng Ruoxu's and the others' private room, Feng De looked at the lively bidding scene below and felt depressed. The price of this mother and daughter was too low. It hadn't even broken 10,000 low-grade crystal stones. Oh! It was already more than 2,000 yuan, and it seemed impossible to exceed 10,000 yuan. Fortunately, he hadn't given them any food these days. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot of money. Miss, based on the current situation, this mother and daughter won't be able to sell for a good price. Feng De sighed. It's okay. I got it for free anyway. A little bit is a little bit. Leng Ruoxue was very open-minded. After all, she did not expect to earn money from this mother and daughter. The reason she sold them was just to give them a taste of their own medicine. Hee hee. That's true. Feng De said with a smile. Half a day had passed, and the price was still slowly rising. At this time, the guests in the private rooms also began to bid. Hee hee. The guests in the private rooms were indeed different. Just look at him, he's so generous. Feng De said with a smile. Big move? When was adding 100 pieces of low-grade crystal stones considered a big deal? How come I didn't know about it? Lin Yuan, who was sitting next to him, had a question mark on his face. Compared to the people below, it's not considered big? Feng De said confidently. Chapter 1294, Cannon Fodder, 2, Watch me. Lin Yuan smiled mysteriously. Then, he shouted through the voice transmission device, 50,000 low-grade crystal stones. If you can't afford it, then go home and hug your wives. Don't embarrass yourself here. Lin Yuan's provocative words immediately aroused the anger of the people in the opposite room. In an instant, a man roared back, "Fuck, who said I can't afford it? I just don't think these two things are worth that much money. 100,000 low-grade crystal stones. Is there anyone else who can bid higher than me? If you don't, these two slaves will be mine." After the person in the opposite room made his bid, he even took on the responsibility of the host. The host was speechless, but he did not express any opinions. "I'll pay 200,000. Lin Yuan continued to shout. "Fuck. You dare to snatch my man. I'll pay 500,000. The person in the opposite room said, unwilling to be outdone. "Hee hee. I'm talking about 200,000 high-grade crystals." Lin Yuan said with a smile. "Mine are also high-grade Jingshi." The person in the opposite room suppressed his anger and shouted. "That's good. Are there any more bids? The one with the highest price will get it." Lin Yuan also pretended to be a host and asked through the voice transmission device. "I'll pay 600,000. At this moment, a woman's voice rang out from the crowd. When the man in the opposite room heard that someone was snatching the goods he was about to get, he was instantly furious. "Fuck, what's the point of you taking down two women? Go home and serve your man, don't get involved with us here. What's wrong with women? Don't look down on women, I'm going to buy them both. I'm not short of money, I can afford any amount of money. If you have the ability, you can also pay. If you can't afford it, then don't even think about these two." The woman sneered. "Fuck. I'm going to waste my time with you today. I'll pay 1 million high-grade crystal stones." The man in the opposite room was furious and immediately raised the price to 1 million. As soon as he placed this price, many people gave up bidding. After all, no one was stupid. Not many people would pay such a high price for two slaves, because they were not worthy. At this moment, the only people who were willing to bid were the woman and the man in the room opposite Leng Ruoxue and the others. The price of the two kept alternating and soon reached 2 million, but this price was still not the final price. Please read on /myboxn0vl, com. When the host saw this, he was extremely happy. Hee hee. If the mother and daughter could be sold for a good price, his reward this month would not be small. Lin Yuan, who had caused this, was also extremely pleased with himself. "Well, see. This is what I call truly generous," Lin Yuan said with a smile. "Yes, you're the best. We can finally make a profit this time," Feng De said with a look of admiration. Hee hee. Lin Yuan smiled foolishly. The feeling of being a shill was not bad. In the end, the mother and daughter from the second league were bought by the woman who had participated in the bidding for nearly 50 million high-grade crystal stones. After receiving the money, Leng Ruoxue and the rest swaggered back to the inn. Feng De and the others' eyes lit up as they looked at the sparkling top-grade crystals on the table. It was as if they wanted to swallow the crystals whole. "Can't you guys be a little more promising? It's not like you've never seen top-grade crystals before, so why are you drooling over high-grade crystals?" Leng Ruoxue looked at their lecherous expressions and laughed. "Miss, it's not easy to make money. It's rare to have so many crystal stones in front of us, so you have to let us enjoy this kind of pleasure." Feng De laughed. "Then you guys enjoy it." Leng Ruoxue shook her head, speechless. After that, she returned to her room with the demon. The next day, the Qi clan genius suddenly came. Leng Ruoxue sat on a chair in the living room and looked at the silent Qi clan genius. She smiled and said, "What brings you here today, young Master Qi?" It seemed like this Qi family genius was not present at the auction yesterday. Could it be that they were here to ask for a share of the dividends from the mother and daughter? Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. "Miss Leng, did you sell the mother and daughter yesterday?" The Qi family genius asked after a while. Of course I'm selling it. The auction yesterday was specially set up for the mother and daughter. As long as someone buys it, it will definitely be sold. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Who did you sell it to? The Qi clan genius asked indifferently. Young Master Qi, don't you know? A woman bought them. As for who that woman is, young Master Qi can only go to the Mission Guild to find out. I'm not very sure. Leng Ruoxue rejected the invitation cleanly. Even though she did not know the motive of the Qi family's genius, she knew that it would not be anything good. Miss Leng, I've received news that the Alliance Master and her daughter have died. They were tortured to death by that woman yesterday. The Qi clan genius frowned. Oh. Then they're really too much of a pain, dying in just one day. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. When she decided to sell the mother and daughter as slaves, she had already anticipated this outcome. After all, they had offended quite a number of people. From what she knew, the person who bought the mother and daughter yesterday was the daughter of a reclusive family and had a deep grudge with the mother and daughter. Otherwise, who would pay such a high price? It was not like their brains had gone haywire. AI. Miss Leng, we're in big trouble now. The Qi clan genius sighed. Young Master Qi, if you have something to say, just say it. I don't like to guess. Leng Ruoxue said impatiently. Miss Leng, to be honest, the Ascender Alliance already knows about this matter. The reason why I didn't attend the auction yesterday was because the Qi family knew that this matter was related to me. Therefore, they ordered people to ground me. I sneaked out today. As soon as I received the news this morning, I immediately thought of a way to come and inform you. The genius from Qi family explained. In other words, he wanted Leng Ruoxue to appreciate his kindness. After all, he was willing to tell her these things out of friendship. I don't quite understand what you mean, young Master Qi. Leng Ruoxue played dumb. However, she couldn't help but think, so what if the Ascender Alliance knew? Paper can't cover fire, she didn't intend to hide this matter at all. Moreover, a lot of people were invited to the auction yesterday, so it was normal for some of them to leak the news. Chapter 1295, Cannon Fodder, 3, Miss Leng, what I mean is that the Ascender Alliance will come to find trouble with you. So, you have to be careful. Qi family young master took a deep breath. Oh. I understand, thank you young Master Qi for your information. Leng Ruoxue said in a neutral tone. Be careful, I have to leave. The Qi clan genius stood up and left. After the Qi family's genius left, Fengde and the rest looked at Leng Ruoxue and asked in confusion, Miss, what did that guy mean? Was he trying to shirk his responsibility? He was the one who caught the mother and daughter, Don't even think about it. It's not that he wants to stay out of this matter, but that the Qi family doesn't allow him to participate in it. I'm afraid that the Ascender Alliance and the Qi family have reached some kind of agreement, and we are just their sacrifices. The Ascender Alliance's face and anger need to be avenged by us. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. After listening to the Qi clan's genius, she was clear about the attitude of the Qi clan and the Ascender Alliance. However, if they wanted to use them as cannon fodder, they would have to ask for her permission first. Miss, what should we do now? It seems that the Ascender Alliance doesn't dare to find trouble with the Quest Guild and the mysterious woman who bought the mother and daughter yesterday. The Qi family is also afraid, so they can only use us as pushovers. Fengde said angrily. What are you afraid of? Sometimes, even if you're afraid, trouble will still come looking for you. Moreover, we seem to be a little free recently, so we can use the Ascender Alliance to pass the time. Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly. In fact, she had dared to sell the mother and daughter as slaves because she had naturally thought of this situation. However, what she had not expected was that the Ascender Alliance was not willing to have any conflict with the Qi family. Instead, they had directly targeted her. The Qi family's reaction was obviously to stay out of it. However, it was impossible to stay out of it after getting involved in her affairs. Therefore, the Qi family was destined to pay the price for this. I'm sorry, it's all our fault. Lan Ming, who had been sitting silently at the side, spoke up in embarrassment. Don't be silly. This is none of your business. We'll have to encounter some of the divine realm's powers sooner or later. Right now, it's just that we've brought the time forward. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. But, Lan Ming still wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Leng Ruoxue. Alright, don't think too much. The most important thing now is to increase your strength. Otherwise, you'll be bullied wherever you go. Leng Ruoxue tried to persuade him. Sometimes, Lan Ming just thinks too much. What a sentimental man. I'll go talk to Godfather and First Elder. You guys can do as you please, said Leng Ruoxue. With that, she stood up and went to look for Master Ning and First Elder. When Master Ning and First Elder heard Leng Ruoxue's words, they were so angry that they trembled. Master Ning, in particular, kept cursing. This old bastard, if he dares to touch a single hair on my daughter, I'll never let him off. The master of the Ning family was so angry that he jumped up 3 times and roared. Please read on /MYBOXN0VL, calm down. We can't just rely on the Qi family's one-sided words to determine what the Ascender Alliance wants. First Elder warned. Isn't that obvious enough? The Ascender Alliance is coming to deal with my good daughter. The master of the Ning family roared with wide eyes. What I mean is, we can't just make assumptions based on hearsay. We're not people without power in the divine realm, so why should we listen to the words of others? I'm asking you to personally send someone to investigate. If it's true, then we won't be polite. The Great Elder explained. Yes, what you said makes sense. I'll send someone to investigate. If it's really that old man who gave the order, don't blame me for falling out with him. The master of the Ning family roared angrily. After that, Master Ning gave some instructions to his subordinate, who then left. 2 days later, news finally came back from the divine realm. The Ascender Alliance had indeed given the order to deal with Leng Ruoxue. However, this order was not given by the General Alliance. It was given by the Alliance Master of the Second Ascender Alliance, who was also the Master of the Second Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master from the Divine Mainland. After receiving this news, Master Ning's anger was slightly reduced. After all, he didn't care about the Second Alliance. However, if it was the old man from the General Alliance, then he would have to go to that old man and talk to him in person. How dare he bully his daughter? Did he really think he didn't exist? Young lady, it seems that the Ascender Alliance really intends to deal with us. I'm so scared. Feng De said with a smile. He said he was afraid, but there was not a single trace of fear on his face. Yup. Let's just stay in this bamboo city and wait for our deaths. Leng Ruoxue pretended to be helpless. Actually, she wanted to go to the Qi clan's god domain in the god world and wait for her death. Unfortunately, she was not strong enough and could not go, so she could only stay here and cause trouble for the Qi clan. However, she had already informed Qi Rui about this. He must have made arrangements to minimize their losses. Miss, why don't we just go to the Second Alliance and wait for our deaths? We'll also take over the Second Alliance's territory. Although the Second Alliance's territory can't compare to the 8 god domains, it's still pretty good on the Divine Continent. Lin Yuan suggested with an evil smile. I'm too tired, Leng Ruoxue spat out these 2 words softly. This was one of the reasons why she didn't want to directly attack the 2 alliances. As for the other reason, it was naturally because of the Qi family. Didn't Qi clan want to stay out of this? Of course, she couldn't let them have their way. Otherwise, she wouldn't be Leng Ruoxue. Ah. Little girl, you're really lazy, but I like it. We just need to stay here, there's no need to travel all the way to the Second Alliance. But, isn't the Second Alliance's leader dead? Now that they are like a group of dragons without a leader, can they still care about the orders of the Divine Realm's 2 Ascender Alliances? The Great Elder asked curiously. The two alliances will send people here. How can they let those guys be without a leader? The master of the Ning family said. It's no use sending people. He can't display his true strength in the divine mainland. If he meets our girl, I'm afraid he won't be able to return. The Great Elder laughed evilly, as if he could already foresee the other party's tragic state. Yes, we're still here. You want to bully my good daughter? Don't even think about it. Master Ning also said excitedly, hee hee. It seemed like there was more fun coming to his door. Chapter 1296, Canon Fodder. 4. Godfather, you and Grand Elder shouldn't interfere in this matter. We can handle it. Leng Ruoxua smiled as she reminded. Ah. Girl, are you trying to take all the food for yourself? This can't do. We old arms and legs also want to move. First Elder immediately objected. Yup. Little Shui, you have to give me a chance to show off as your father. The master of the Ning family also begged with a bitter face. Godfather, Great Elder, there's no need for you guys to take action for a few insignificant characters. Even if the Divine Realm's Second Alliance's master were to personally come, he would still not be worthy of fighting with you guys. Leng Ruoxua put on a high hat, and the two old men immediately broke into smiles. Hee hee. The girl's words are also reasonable. Old man Ning, since this is the case, let's not make a move. If they can't deal with it, it won't be too late for us to make a move. The Great Elder said to the master of the Ning family with a smile. All right then. The master of the Ning family unwillingly replied. After a simple discussion on the countermeasures, Leng Ruoxua and the others settled down in the inn with a peace of mind. However, they had been waiting for almost half a month and had yet to see any sign of the Ascender Alliance. This made them feel deeply puzzled. Young miss, the people of the Ascender Alliance are too unprofessional. Haven't the Divine Realm's orders been issued long ago? Why aren't they here yet? The news of US being in Bamboo City has been out for a long time, they should be here by now. In the garden of the house, Fengde kept on complaining to Leng Ruoxua. Leng Ruoxua furrowed her brows. She was speechless and helpless. These days, her combative subordinates had complained to her almost every day, so much so that her ears had grown calluses. Therefore, when she heard Feng Die's complaints again, she could not help but complain about the Ascender Alliance in her heart. These guys' efficiency was really too low. Everything they did was delayed. Fortunately, he was not their master. Otherwise, he would have been angered to death. Just as Leng Ruoxua was thinking about this, she suddenly saw Godfather's subordinate running into the garden with an excited look on his face. He was even shouting non-stop, "They're here! They're here! They're here to cause us trouble!" When Fengde and the others heard this, their spirits were immediately lifted. They quickly tidied up their clothes and rushed out of the inn. At this time, they were the only ones living in the inn. The other guests and the inn manager had all disappeared after knowing that someone would come here to seek revenge. However, before the inn manager left, he still asked them worriedly who would be responsible for the losses of his inn. After getting their affirmative answer, the manager left reluctantly because their answer was that the losses would be borne by the Ascender Alliance, but they would claim the losses on his behalf. Seeing that Fengde and the rest had disappeared in the blink of an eye, Leng Ruoxua could not help but feel a few black lines sliding down her forehead. Then, she followed her godfather and the rest out of the inn. At this moment, the entrance of the inn was surrounded by people from the Ascender Alliance. Looking at the dense crowd in front of them, Fengde and the others laughed. Please read on /myboxn0vl, I say, what's the meaning of this? Fengde asked with a smile. There were so many people. Hee hee. It was just what he wanted. Humph. Did you sell our Second Alliance's Alliance Master and her daughter as slaves? The leader of the Ascender Alliance said. This time, he was under the orders of the Alliance Master of the two alliances in the divinity to seek revenge on these people. He was very clear that this was definitely the best opportunity for him to perform. If he could do things to the satisfaction of the Alliance Master might be happy and even let him be the Deputy Alliance Master. One had to know that he had always been thinking about the empty position of Deputy Alliance Leader. Therefore, his attitude towards this matter was extremely positive. Originally, when he came to the Divine Mainland, he wanted the other alliances to help the two alliances. After all, they were all part of the Ascender Alliance. Although this incident had happened to someone from the two alliances, it was not good for everyone's face. So, when he confidently sent people to look for the other alliances, they had all rejected him. This made him a little embarrassed and angry. However, even though he was angry, he could not care about the other alliances. Hence, after waiting for a few days, he could only bring his subordinates from the God World and the people from the two alliances to Ing City. They had surrounded the inn where Leng Ruoxue and the others were staying without anyone knowing. Chapter 1297, What a Tough Cannon Fodder. 1. Actually, his so-called "no one knows" and "no one knows" were just his assumptions. His every move had long been under the strict surveillance of Leng Ruoxue and the others. Yet, he was still so pleased with himself that he thought that his actions were flawless and no one had noticed. So what if I am? We're also following orders from the Qi family's direct line of descent, we're working for him. Feng De laughed evilly and said, "Humph. Didn't these two forces want to use them as cannon fodder? Good. Then he would drag the Qi clan genius down with him and see how his Qi clan would stay out of this." Impudent. The Qi family is one of the 8 great divine regions. How could they do such a thing? This is clearly a frame-up. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said loudly. Before he came, the Alliance Master had specifically instructed him that if the other party continued to hold on to the Qi clan, he must exonerate the Qi clan. In short, the Alliance Master had already reached a consensus with the Qi clan, so he must not spoil the Alliance Master's plans. Hee hee. Look at what you're saying, it's as if you were there at the time. Whether we're talking nonsense or not, that direct descendant of the Qi family knows it clearly, you don't need to cover for him. As a man, if you dare to do it, you must admit it. What kind of ability is it to be a coward? Feng De said with a mocking expression. Who are you calling a coward? The leader of the Ascender Alliance roared in anger after hearing these words. Calm down. I'm not talking about you. Don't take it to heart. Feng De smiled as he looked at the agitated leader of the Ascender Alliance. He was puzzled. He didn't say anything about this fellow. Why was this fellow so agitated? Humph. Only women and villains are difficult to raise. The leader of the Ascender Alliance glared at Feng De for a long time before he finally managed to say a complete sentence. Vile person. Are you talking about me? All right. Since you think so highly of me, why should I be polite? Brothers. Go, teach this lord a good lesson. Feng De turned his head and said to Lin Yuan and the others with a smile. All right. Lin Yuan and the rest rubbed their fists and wiped their palms, eager to try. There was a trace of excitement on their faces. I wonder if these guys from the Ascender Alliance can take a beating. It would be meaningless if it shattered with a touch. Wait. What do you want to do? I'm not done yet. The leader of the Ascender Alliance quickly stopped them when he saw that the other party was about to start a war. According to his idea, as long as he revealed his identity as an Ascender Alliance, he should be able to deter these guys. But who knew that they didn't take him seriously at all and even wanted to fight when they didn't get along? AI. What a bunch of uncultured barbarians. He couldn't help but complain in his heart that the other party didn't follow his script. I have to wait until you're done talking? Feng De asked, feeling a little funny. This was the first time he had seen such a person in his life. Didn't they come here to get back their face? Why was he complaining that they had acted too quickly now? You still have to say some more nonsense before you can make a move, hee hee. It was truly laughable. Of course. I haven't finished my words. All of you better behave yourselves. The Ascender Alliance's leader roared in an overbearing manner. He had not even used the opening speech he had thought of. How could they start fighting? One had to know that in order to come up with those words that could intimidate the other party, he had thought about it for several days and nights. Therefore, he had to say it out loud. Otherwise, wouldn't his efforts be in vain? This was definitely not allowed. Ah! Please speak. Fengde was speechless, and he couldn't help but wonder to himself, why did the Ascender Alliance send an idiot here? He was sure that this guy was definitely not mentally sound. After all, how could a normal person have such thoughts? However, he wanted to hear what else this guy had to say. Humph. You're tactful. All of you, listen up. You're so bold, actually daring to sell our second Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master. Do you want to die? Do you know that your actions have infuriated the higher-ups of our Ascender Alliance? Therefore, they have sent me to deal with you. I advise you to surrender obediently. There is no benefit for you to become enemies with our Ascender Alliance. You should surrender. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said in a serious tone. After he finished speaking, he looked at Fengde and the others with a pained expression. Ah. Are you done? After a moment of silence, Fengde asked calmly. Now, he was even more certain that the guy sent by the Ascender Alliance was definitely mentally unstable. He was a retard. Otherwise, how could a normal person say such words? Please read on /myboxn0vl, done. You should surrender. The leader of the Ascender Alliance urged. He said the opening words that he had been thinking about for several days and nights. He felt much more comfortable in his heart. Moreover, he was very wishful in thinking that as long as he said these words, the other party would definitely surrender obediently. Then isn't it our turn to say it now? Fengde asked. He was worried about the future of the Ascender Alliance. If all the Ascenders in the Ascender Alliance were so stupid, it would not take long for the Ascender Alliance to become a third-rate force. Do you guys have anything else to say? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked in disbelief. He really couldn't understand what these prisoners had to say. Wouldn't it be better to just surrender? How troublesome. You've already said it, so why can't we say anything? Fengde said with a hint of mockery. All right then, speak. Even though you are my prisoners, I still have human rights. The Ascender Alliance's leader's words were shocking. However, Fengde and the others chose to ignore his words. Isn't the Alliance Master of your two alliances in the Divine Realm? How did you get sold? Fengde asked curiously. What are you talking about? Our two alliances' leaders are so powerful, how could they be sold? When the Ascender Alliance's leader heard this, he was instantly enraged. How am I talking nonsense? You're the one who said it. Fengde pretended to be confused. Although he knew who the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was, he still had to play dumb to the end. Hee. When did I say that? Don't wrong me. The leader of the Ascender Alliance was extremely angry. If these words were to be spread back to the Divine Realm, then he could forget about having a good life. It should be known that the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was extremely petty and held grudges. Chapter 1298. What a tough cannon fodder, too. Weren't you the one who said that we sold out the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance? Fengde asked. That's right. Isn't that the case? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked in a daze. He didn't quite understand what the other party was saying. But the Alliance Master of your Second Alliance is clearly in the Divine Realm. Even if we wanted to sell it, we wouldn't be able to. Unless you cooperate with us to trick him here, we might still have a chance. How about it? Do you want to cooperate with us? We'll give you a bonus when the time comes. He should be able to sell it for a good price. Fengde said with a serious face. You want to sell our Second Alliance's Alliance Master. You really don't want to live anymore. The leader of the Ascender Alliance stammered. It was unknown whether he was angry or scared, but his whole body was trembling. Even if I wanted to sell it, I would need your cooperation. This business is very cost-effective, and you'll definitely get a lot of dividends. Fodder reminded. What do you want me to cooperate with? The leader of the Ascender Alliance finally found his voice and couldn't help but roar. He cursed in his heart. These people were really too bad. It was fine if they wanted to sell it, but why did they have to drag him down with them? One had to know that many of the people he had brought with him were from the immortal realm. If anyone were to leak the news, the Alliance Master would definitely not let him off. This group of bad guys. Of course it's to help us trick the two alliances' leader into coming here. He'll definitely be able to sell it for a good price. Fodder said with a smile. Don't even think about it. I won't cooperate with you in doing such a thing. The Ascender Alliance's leader's mind finally cleared up, and he rejected decisively. Previously, he was a little scared silly, so he did not directly refuse. My fiery heart is on your side, so you must believe me. You're really not going to cooperate? Fodder squinted his eyes and asked in an unfriendly tone. I'm determined not to cooperate. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said with a firm will. That's good. Since that's the case, let's not waste any more time and start the war. Fodder said coldly. You'll regret this. Our Ascender Alliance is not to be trifled with. The leader of the Ascender Alliance threatened. Likewise. We're not to be trifled with. Fodder said with a light smile. Then, he gave Lin Yuan and the others a look. The crowd swarmed forward. Although the Ascender Alliance had a large number of people, they had always lived a comfortable life in the territory of the Ascenders. They were used to it and had not seen these fierce opponents for a long time. Therefore, they could not adapt to it at all. In just a moment, nearly 1/3 of the Ascender Alliance's people had died. As Fodder and the others raised their hands and swung their swords, a life would almost be sent out of this world in an instant. Instant kill. It was an instant kill. Please read on /myboxn0vl, Seeing this situation, the people of the Ascender Alliance were a little afraid. Fuck. How was this a soft persimmon? This was clearly a group of bloodthirsty wolves. They were no match for these people. When they thought of this, many people felt fear and secretly fled when Fodder and the others were not paying attention. Come back. Damn it, all of you, come back. No one is allowed to run. When the leader of the Ascender Alliance saw that his subordinates had actually abandoned him, he was furious. However, Fodder and Cheng Wu were keeping him busy, so he couldn't do anything at the same time. In fact, he wanted to run away, but these two guys didn't give him the chance. It was really too detestable. Now, he had seen it clearly. These people were not the so-called cannon fodder at all. How could there be such hard cannon fodder in the world? Not only would he not be able to bite through it, he might even lose his life. He regretted coming to the godly continent because he might not be able to go back. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. However, it was useless for him to regret it, because Fodder and the others had made up their minds to make him stay. As for those people from the Ascender Alliance who had escaped, they would naturally not have a good end, At this time, those people had probably been killed by Song Di and the others who were lying in ambush outside the city, and they would not have killed by mistake. After all, they were all dressed in the same clothes. It was impossible not to recognize him even if he wanted to. After a long while, of the Ascender Alliance's members who were still alive, only the somewhat out-of-line leader was left. Little brat. How about us cannon fodder? Fodder held the dagger in his hand, and the cold light reflected on the face of the Ascender Alliance's leader. He was so scared that he trembled even more. He was afraid that the other party would accidentally scratch his face. Why did he have to scare him like this? I'm asking you a question. Seeing that the other party didn't respond for a long time, Fodder couldn't help but say impatiently. The leader of the Ascender Alliance stammered, unable to say a complete sentence. Feng De, keep the dagger away from him. He'll be scared. Chen Wu looked at the leader of the Ascender Alliance, who was as timid as a mouse, and said with a look of disdain. Oh. That's true. Feng De put away the dagger obediently and said to the leader, you can answer me now. Answer you what? The leader of the Ascender Alliance was still trembling. What about us cannon fodder? Fuck. If you're still playing dumb, don't blame me for being impolite. Feng De brandished his dagger and threatened. Arg. Don T. I say. You cannon fodder are the toughest cannon fodder I've ever seen. Sob. Actually, I'm very useless. I'm not even a fart in the two alliances. I can only show off in the godly mainland. So, even if you kill me, the alliance master won't feel bad. The leader said with a sad face, not caring about his image. So you're cannon fodder like us? Feng De laughed. Yes. At first, the alliance master didn't want to send me here because he knew I couldn't do anything. However, those guys in the alliance all found all kinds of excuses, so the alliance master had no choice but to send me here. In order to make me feel at ease, he even hinted to me that if this matter was handled well, he would let me be the deputy alliance master. Sob. Now I've finally thought it through. He was just playing with me. He had no intention of making me the deputy alliance master. I'm just cannon fodder. The leader of the Ascender Alliance immediately took advantage of the situation and continued Feng De's words. Chapter 1299, What a Tough Cannon Fodder, 3, Since you can see it so clearly, are you willing to cooperate with us? Feng De asked again. Cooperate with you on what? The leader of the Ascender Alliance did not react for a while and asked in confusion. Of course it's to cooperate with us and bring the leader of the Second League of the Divine Realm here. Didn't I tell you before? Since they're so unkind, why should you be righteous? So, why don't we just go all out and get him here? Well, sell him and give you a share of the profits, how about it? Feng De tempted. Are you really going to sell the Alliance Master? The leader of the Ascender Alliance wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and asked carefully. Do you think I'm joking? We've been tight on cash recently, and he wants to deal with us, so we might as well strike first. Oh, you can also bring your opponents from the two alliances to the Divine Mainland. Then, well, sell them all. In that case, the two alliances will be yours. Even if you want to be the alliance leader, it'll be a piece of cake, let alone a deputy. Feng De reminded him with an evil smile. Let me think. After hearing Feng De's words, the leader of the Ascender Alliance thought about it seriously. He couldn't deny that Feng De's words had moved him, but he didn't dare to do that. He was afraid that the General Alliance would not let him go after knowing about this. After all, such an action was no different from betrayal. You're afraid of the General Union, right? What if I promise you that the General Union won't be angry about this? Seeing his hesitation, Feng De threw out an even bigger bait. He did not believe that this guy would not take the bait. Really? What can you use to guarantee that? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked suspiciously. To be honest, he didn't believe the other party's words at all. If all the higher-ups of the two alliances were sold out, how could the General Alliance not be angry? In this way, how could the General Alliance still have the face to stand in the Divine Realm? I'll show you something good. Feng De said with a mysterious smile. After he finished speaking, he took out a thin piece of paper from his storage ring and handed it to the leader of the Ascender Alliance. The Ascender Alliance's leader took it and looked at it. His expression suddenly changed, because the paper recorded the shameful things that these high-level people had done behind the scenes, including his own. However, compared with the others, his things were obviously like a small house meeting a big house. It was not worth mentioning at all. How is it? With this thing, you're still afraid that the General Alliance will blame you? It's so easy to find an excuse. You're clearing out the parasites for the Ascender Alliance and returning the Alliance to its pure land. Feng De said it in a grand manner, but the other party took it to heart. That's right, I want to clear the bugs for the Alliance and return them a piece of pure land. However, I've also done some unspeakable things. If the General Alliance knew about it, they wouldn't let me be the Second Alliance's leader. The leader of the Ascendance Alliance said with a face full of distress. If he had known that there would be such a good opportunity, he would have kept his chastity no matter what. How could he be easily dragged down by them? That will depend on your ability. We can provide you with evidence of their crimes, but we can't influence the choice of the Alliance Master. So, whether you can become the Alliance Master or not will be up to you. Feng De said helplessly. In fact, what did it have to do with them whether the other party could become the Alliance leader or not? They only wanted to use this guy to lure those people from the Second Alliance over and give him some benefits at the same time. As for whether he could grasp it or not, that was his own problem. However, it was estimated that the Ascender General Alliance would not let such a fool become the Second Alliance's leader. Yes, I must be the leader of the Second Alliance. The Ascender Alliance's leader said confidently. With this evidence, he could make a good move and the Second Alliance's master would definitely fall into his hands. After making up his mind, he decided to cooperate with the other party. What do you want me to do? The leader of the Ascender Alliance asked. He was no longer so afraid of Feng De and the others, because in his heart, they were already considered allies. Since they were the leader of the Alliance, they would definitely not harm his life. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com. First of all, of course, you have to suffer some physical pain. However, this is something that cannot be helped. It'll be good for you to return to the two alliances. I hope you can understand. Feng De said courteously. I understand. The leader of the Ascender Alliance nodded. The people he had brought with him were all dead. It would be unreasonable if he was still alive and kicking. What should I do after I return to the Second Alliance? The leader of the Ascension Capital Alliance asked shamelessly, like an obedient child. When you return, you will naturally tell the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance about this with additional details. Oh right, don't forget to mention the Qi family. Then, find the right time to persuade the two Alliance Masters to come here. You can think of the details yourself. Feng De said irresponsibly. In fact, he felt that he had said enough, but it was a pity that the guy they found was too stupid. He really didn't know if he could trick the people from the Second Alliance. Oh. The leader of the Ascender Alliance nodded. Right, let me ask you, what kind of agreement did your alliance head reach with Qi clan? Feng De suddenly asked. I'm not too sure about that. I'm not the Alliance Master's confidant. There are many things he won't tell me. The leader of the Ascender Alliance said with a depressed look. Then go back to the Divine Realm and find out about this matter for me. Remember to tell me the next time you come. Feng De ordered. All right, he said. The leader of the Ascender Alliance replied carefully. Let's start now. Feng De said with a smirk. Ah. Start what? The Ascender Alliance's leader asked in puzzlement. Of course it's to create a ruse of self-injury. Endure it. After Feng De finished speaking, he took the lead and punched the other party's face. Then, Lin Yuan and the others swarmed forward and began to punch and kick the leader. Not long after, the Ascender Alliance's leader's body was a bloody mess, and it was a tragic sight. When Lin Ruoxua saw this, she felt a deep sense of sympathy for the half-dead fellow on the ground. However, it was only for a moment. Did you guys kill him? The Great Elder couldn't help but ask after circling the Ascender Alliance's leader who was lying on the ground. Don't worry. Although this person's strength isn't very high, he's still from the Divine Realm after all. His skin is tough and his flesh is thick, so he won't die so easily. Feng De said with certainty. They had a sense of propriety. Although the injuries on this guy's body looked scary, they were only flesh wounds. That's good. The great elder was relieved. After all, this guy was the chess piece they had chosen. It would be a pity if he died before they even used him. After the ruse of self-injury was completed, Fengde followed his original plan and threw the leader of the Ascender Alliance at the only way to the Second Alliance. There were many people on the road, so the bloodied guy would soon be saved. All they had to do was wait. For a period of time after that, Len Ruoxue and the rest continued to live in Bamboo City, peacefully living their cannon fodder dreams. Unfortunately, their opponents were too useless. Thus, even though they only came once, they were eaten up by the cannon fodder. In the garden of the house, Fengde and the others were so bored that they were in a daze. Some of them even counted the days with their fingers. "Captain, that guy has been back for almost a month, right? Why is there no movement? Did their alliance master kill them?" Someone couldn't help but ask in a low voice. "I don't think so, but according to Brother Ning, his injuries aren't light and he's still recuperating in the second league. He's been eating and drinking well every day, so he's probably too happy to even think about home," Fengde said with an evil smile. The big brother Ning he was talking about was naturally one of the subordinates of the Ning family's master. He was also in charge of sending messages to the divine world. "Looks like we've fulfilled his wish. If I had known earlier, I would have beaten him up harder." Lin Yuan chuckled. "Come on. If you beat him a little harder, he would really be dead." 2 drops of cold sweat dripped from Feng Die's forehead as he thought to himself, "Lin Yuan is even more ruthless than me." "Who's dead?" Len Ruoxue and the demon walked into the garden and happened to hear the last sentence. She could not help but ask curiously. "Miss, we are talking about the leader of the Ascender Alliance." Fengde quickly explained. "Oh. Let me tell you some good news. They've arrived at the godly mainland, and the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance is personally leading them." Len Ruoxue had just heard the news from her godfather and immediately came to inform her subordinates so that they could make preparations. In fact, they should have been prepared long ago. It was just that they had been waiting for a long time, so they were all bored. "Really? Ha ha ha. That's great. Those bastards are finally here, humph. How dare they make me wait for so long. I won't let them go." "But, miss, do you really plan to sell them all?" The excited Fengde couldn't help but ask. When the miss had told them about this, his first reaction was that the miss was in need of money, and she was in extreme need of money. Otherwise, why would he think of selling everyone from the 2 alliances? They weren't the 2 alliances of the godly continent. However, he saw that his young miss' expression was very serious, so he could only carry out her words. "What's wrong? Are you scared?" Len Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. "Why would I be afraid? I'm just curious, miss, are you short of money?" Fengde finally asked what he was thinking. He couldn't help it. "Who said I can only sell them if I'm short of money?" Len Ruoxue asked with a smile. "Ah. If you don't lack money, why would you want to sell people to the divine realm?" Fengde was very puzzled. The Ascender Alliance's power was second only to the 8 great divine regions. To the current them, it was definitely a colossus-like existence. Once they sold out the higher-ups of the 2 alliances, the Ascender Alliance of the divine realm would most likely view them as their mortal enemy. At that time, the 5 alliances would come together and wouldn't they be entangled tightly? Then, how would they be able to go out and travel? Since they have the guts to scheme against me, they naturally have to bear the consequences. If they want us to be cannon fodder, how can they not pay a price? Moreover, you can be at ease. Even if we sell out the higher-ups of the 2 alliances, the Ascender's General Alliance won't do anything to us. This is because Godfather has already reached an agreement with them and the Great Elder. Len Ruoxue said calmly. "Oh. Hee hee. With that, I can play as much as I want," Fengde said with a smirk. Chapter 1300, An Unexpected Gain, 1, It's fine to play. However, to be able to become the leader of the Divine Realms Ascender Alliance's 2 alliances, he's definitely not an ordinary person. Thus, you all must be careful. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Even though she trusted her subordinate's abilities, she still had to remind him of what she needed to. Hee. Don't worry, miss, we will be careful. Feng De promised with a smile. In the next few days, Feng De and the rest gathered together and discussed something in a sneaky manner. When they saw Leng Ruoxue and Master Ning, they deliberately avoided them and acted mysteriously. Seeing the actions of Feng De and the others, the master of the Ning family was puzzled and couldn't help but ask, Shui, what are those kids doing? You've made it so mysterious. He's probably planning on how to scheme against the 2 alliances, Master. Godfather, let them worry about these small things. We don't need to care about them. Leng Ruoxue laughed. She had always adopted a free-range policy towards her subordinates. As long as they took care of themselves, that was enough. This was also the only request she had for her subordinates. Hee, these kids are all ruthless. The alliance master of the 2nd alliance is going to be in big trouble. The first elder chuckled. Of course we can't be soft-hearted towards our enemies. Otherwise, we'll be the ones to suffer. Leng Ruoxue laughed. That's true. Little girl, should we also do some preparation work? The Great Elder asked again. No need, Great Elder and Godfather will just watch the show. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Ah. Are you letting us watch a good show again? Master Ning's face darkened as he spoke unhappily. Godfather, there's no need to use an ox's blade to kill a chicken. It's enough for us to deal with these small characters. You're all people with high positions and authority. If you were to deal with these small fries like the Ascender Alliance's chief, you'll become a laughingstock. Leng Ruoxue said with an expression that said, I'm doing this for your own good. Ah. All right then. The master of the Ning family and the Great Elder replied helplessly, but they were a little depressed in their hearts. Woo, they were actually being despised because of their status. What the hell was this? However, in the entire immortal realm, it was likely that only this girl would not allow them to appear because of their identities. If it were anyone else, they would have long clung onto someone's thigh, regardless of who they were. 3 days later. Leng Ruoxue and the others had been waiting for the alliance master of the 2nd alliance for a long time. He finally brought a large group of people to Ying City. However, they did not surround the inn like the leader who had gone off the rails earlier. Instead, they found a house and started to renovate it. The reason why they were looking for private residences was mainly because all the inns in the city had closed their doors and refused to have any customers. Although they didn't know why, they had rushed all the way here from the Divine Realm. They had to take a rest first. Who asked their opponent to be so cunning? Please read on /myboxn0vl.com. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the rest had received news that the alliance master of the 2nd alliance had entered the city. However, she did not expect the alliance master of the 2nd alliance to be a woman as well. It was just that she was much older than the one on the Divine Continent. Furthermore, this alliance master of the 2nd alliance was also surrounded by beautiful men. After hearing this news, she was very speechless. She couldn't help but think to herself, could this be the legendary "a crooked stick will have a crooked shadow"? As the leaders of the 2 alliances, they could definitely be considered to be of the same lineage. Even their preferences were the same. However, it was said that the men beside the leaders of the 2 alliances followed her willingly and not by force. After Feng De and the others knew that the alliance master of the 2nd alliance had entered the city, they had borrowed Ling from her and never returned. However, Leng Ruoxue knew that they were up to no good. With Ling by their side, she naturally didn't have to worry about their safety. Feng De and the rest went out in the morning, and by the time they returned, it was already night time. Seeing the joy on their faces, Leng Ruoxue did not ask any further. After they finished eating, she pulled the evildoer along and went back to her room. Looking at Leng Ruoxue's back view, Feng De and the rest were dumbfounded. Miss, Why don't you ask us what we've been up to all day? Lin Yuan asked, puzzled. You're asking me? Who am I supposed to ask? Don't guess what the young lady is thinking. Feng De said helplessly, sigh. Their miss had never played by the rules. The more they hoped for her to ask, the more she did not ask. Are we still going tomorrow? Lin Yuan asked carefully. Of course I'm going. If I don't go, all my previous efforts will be in vain. Feng De said. To be honest, he hadn't had enough after playing for a day. Therefore, he would continue to go there tomorrow until he had had enough fun. The next day, Feng De and the others went out early again. The master of the Ning family looked at the empty courtyard and said with some discomfort, Girl, are you really not curious about what those brats are doing? It was originally quite lively with so many people, but these little brats had not been home for the past 2 days, and he did not see them play around, so he was really not used to it. Godfather, what could they have done? It's nothing more than causing trouble at the residence of the Second Alliance. They've done this a lot in the past. Leng Ruoshu understood. She didn't need to guess or Feng De and the others to tell her. She could figure it out. Ah. Then the Second Alliance's alliance master and the others are in trouble. The master of the Ning family said sympathetically. He had a deep understanding of how good those brats were at pranking people, so he really sympathized with that old woman from the Second Alliance. He was already so old, what would he do if he got scared again? At this time, the residence of the Second Alliance was just as the master of the Ning family and the others had thought. It was in deep water and fire, and the most unfortunate one was the master of the Second Alliance. Although this alliance master of the Second Alliance had many beautiful men by her side, this was not because she was a lecherous person, but because of her cultivation needs. The cultivation method she cultivated was a kind of top-grade dual cultivation method. It had to be cultivated by both a man and a woman at the same time. Moreover, both men and women would obtain endless benefits. Thus, this cultivation method was very famous in the divine realm. However, this cultivation method had very high requirements on the cultivator's body, and there were very few people who could cultivate it. And this alliance master of the Second Alliance just happened to be able to cultivate it. Thus, many men willingly followed her in order to obtain a top-grade cultivation method. Dual cultivation was allowed in the divine realm. However, there were many dual cultivation techniques that couldn't be acknowledged by others. This was because many dual cultivation techniques were only beneficial to one party while the other party was completely in the role of contributing. In the end, they might even die an unnatural death. Thus, many deities didn't like dual cultivation with others, for fear of falling into the other party's trap. Chapter 1301, An Unexpected Gain. 2. A dual cultivation technique that could benefit both sides would naturally be highly respected by everyone. However, this kind of technique had extremely high requirements for the woman, and very few women could meet the requirements. Thus, there were not many gods who could dual cultivate in the divine world. The alliance master of the two alliances in the divine realm was able to cultivate a top-grade dual cultivation technique. In addition to her beauty, she naturally had many admirers in the divine realm. The man who followed her not only admired her, but also wanted to improve his strength. However, after the two alliances' leaders arrived at the divine mainland, they were cultivating as usual. Who knew that at a critical moment in their cultivation, they would be interrupted by the noise in the courtyard? As a result, they accidentally suffered from qi deviation and lost a lot of vitality. They also aged by more than 10 years in an instant. The alliance master of the Second Alliance looked to be in his early 20s, but after an accident in his cultivation, he looked almost 50 years old. His smooth and beautiful face was now wrinkled. Seeing his current appearance, the alliance master of the Second Alliance almost broke down. After all, which woman didn't care about her appearance? Lu Xiang. Get the hell in here. The alliance master of the Second Alliance laid on the bed weakly and shouted at the top of his lungs. Alliance master, I'm here. In the courtyard, Lu Xiang heard the alliance master's call and immediately pushed open the door and ran in. He was also one of the president's men, but he was not the one cultivating with the president tonight, so he was responsible for the security of the courtyard. Now that he heard the president call him, he naturally thought that the president was dissatisfied and wanted to. He stepped into the room excitedly and saw the old woman with a wrinkled face on the bed. His heart trembled in fear, thinking that he had entered the wrong room. Not only that, but there was a man of similar age lying next to the old woman. The man was obviously unconscious. Seeing this situation, he didn't know what to do. Ugh! What was going on? This is the Alliance Master's room, right? Then who were the two people on the bed? At this moment, he didn't dare to guess that the woman was the president because he knew very well that the president was most concerned about her devastatingly beautiful face. Lu Xiang. Where the hell have you been? They actually caused such a huge commotion outside. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said angrily, his eyes almost spitting fire. Alliance. Alliance Master. You're the Alliance Master. When Lu Xiang heard the familiar voice, he asked in disbelief, Wu, what's going on? What happened? How did the Alliance Master become like this? He could not believe his eyes. What's wrong? You can't recognize me either. Humph. Wasn't it all you're doing? How did you keep watch? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance shouted at the top of her lungs without a care for her image. She was about to die from anger. She had just arrived at the Divine Mainland and her plan had not even started yet, but she had already suffered from chi deviation and suffered quite a lot of internal injuries. What the hell was going on? Alliance Master. I'm innocent. This is none of my business. I don't know why there are so many rats in the yard, making us so chaotic. Woo-woo. Please forgive me, Alliance Master. Lu Xiang complained tearfully with snot and tears. Forgive? You've caused us to be like this. You still want me to forgive you? Humph. Men. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance shouted towards the door, but she fainted right after. Lu Xiang's heart was beating like thunder when he saw this scene. He was stunned for a moment before he immediately reacted. He strode to the door and stopped the guard who was about to enter. Please read on /myboxn0vl, Housekeeper Lu, the Alliance Master is calling us. The guard reminded. I know, but the Alliance Master has already fainted, so I'm afraid I won't be able to see you. Lu Xiang heaved a sigh of relief. In the entire Second Alliance, he was not afraid of anyone other than the Alliance Master. Therefore, he was sure that the guards would not dare to barge in after hearing his words. Ah! Why is the Alliance Master unconscious? The guard was puzzled. No wonder he heard something wrong with the Alliance Master's voice. The Alliance Master made a mistake in her cultivation and fell into chi deviation. Moreover, the Alliance Master has placed all the blame on us. So, she called you in to reprimand you. Unfortunately, she suddenly fainted. Lu Xiang explained. In fact, he knew that the president only wanted to punish him. However, this was not his own problem, so there was no way he would be the scapegoat. Arg! Then what should he do? Could it be that we disturbed the Alliance Master when we were catching the mouse, so she went into chi deviation? One of the guards asked in fear. The Alliance Master had always been fickle in emotions. If he really wanted to punish them, none of them would have a good time. Yes, you're right. The noise just now disturbed the president, so she went crazy. Fortunately, the president is in a coma now. Otherwise, if she wanted to hold us responsible, none of us would be able to escape. Lu Xiang said very seriously. Housekeeper Lu, what should we do? You have to think of a good way to save us. The guard said with a face full of fear. I can't even save myself, how can I save you? AI. Lu Xiang said gloomily. He then continued, however, the Alliance Master is unconscious now, so we still have some time to think of a solution. What should we do if the Alliance Master investigates this? Housekeeper Lu is right. We're all depending on you. Well, do whatever you say. The guard quickly said. That's good. Let me think about it before telling you. You have to guard this place well. Other than me, don't allow anyone to enter or leave, so as not to disturb the president's rest. After giving his orders, Lu Xiang left the courtyard of the Second Alliance Master and returned to his room. As soon as he stepped into the room, he immediately noticed a few people sitting in the room, clearly waiting for him. Who are you? How did you get in? Lu Xiang said warily. These people were all weaker than him, but for some reason, his intuition told him that these people were not to be trifled with. Of course we walked in. As for who we are, you'll find out very soon. Feng De, who was sitting on a chair and drinking tea, said with a smile. The people from the Second Alliance really knew how to enjoy themselves. It was such a waste to live in such a dilapidated courtyard and drink such good tea. Chapter 1302, An Unexpected Gain, 3. Then what is your purpose in coming here? Seeing that he couldn't find out the identity of these people, Lu Xiang could only ask in a roundabout way. We heard that the Second Alliance's leader is an absolute beauty, so we came here to admire her. Feng De chuckled. Hearing Feng De's words, Lu Xiang was speechless. What did he mean by, I heard the president of the Second Alliance is a beauty, so I came to admire her? Their alliance master wasn't a flower. How to appreciate it? Moreover, the alliance master probably didn't want outsiders to see him in his current state, so these people's wishful thinking might have been wrong. However, he didn't want to offend someone who could come and go as he pleased in their residence without anyone knowing. It's not convenient for our alliance master to meet with guests now, so I'm afraid you've all come in vain. After a moment of silence, Lu Xiang said. Oh. It's not convenient to meet guests because of qi deviation and suddenly became an old lady? Feng De asked with an evil smile. How did you know? Lu Xiang was shocked. These people were too powerful, weren't they? He found out about something that had just happened so quickly. Wasn't that what Steward Lu said just now? We just happened to hear it. Feng De chuckled. This was truly an unexpected surprise. They didn't expect that the rats they had used all kinds of means to get would cause the two alliance masters to become demonic before they could even complete their mission. Was this considered a lucky hit? Now, the two alliances' leaders can't do anything, right? AI. People. He just had to keep a low profile, otherwise, he would be punished by the heavens. Ah. Then what do you want? Lu Xiang's face was filled with vigilance. He still didn't know the other party's intention for coming, but these people had sneakily come to his door, so it couldn't be anything good. Housekeeper Lu, how about we sell you the alliance master of the Second Alliance? Feng De looked at Lu Xiang's cautious face and couldn't help but ask with a smile. From the information given to them by the leader, this Lu Xiang should be one of the people who was more interested in the Second Alliance's master. However, the Second Alliance's master didn't like him very much. If they sold the Second Alliance's master to this person, their relationship would naturally switch, hee. With this man's petty character, who knew how he would torture the once high-spirited leader of the Second Alliance? Sell it to me. Who do you think you are? Do you think you can just sell off the Second Alliance's leader as you please? Lu Xiang said in a speechless manner. If I say it can be sold, then it can be sold. It all depends on whether you dare to buy it or not. However, now that the Second Alliance's master is so old, I don't think you'll be interested in her anymore. Just pretend I didn't mention it. Feng De said with a regretful look. Housekeeper Lu, by the way, I'd like to remind you that your negligence of duty has caused your president to go berserk. If she wakes up, I'm afraid she won't let you off. So, you better know your place. Feng De reminded. After he finished speaking, he gave Lin Yuan and the others a look. Everyone stood up and prepared to leave. Just as he reached the door, he was stopped by Lu Xiang. Wait. Was what you said just now true? How confident are you? The alliance master is quite snobbish, so it won't be easy for you to get her. Besides, I'm also afraid that he'll be in trouble. Lu Xiang asked nervously. In fact, Feng Die's words had moved him. After all, he had only followed the president for a higher cultivation base. However, there were too many men around the president. Sometimes, he would not have a chance to cultivate for months. This was completely different from what he had initially imagined. Therefore, over time, he had some other thoughts in his heart. Now, after Feng Die's temptation, these thoughts had completely emerged, but he was still a little afraid. If you're afraid of this and that, then you can just wait for death. You know your president's personality better than anyone else. Do you think she'll let you go? Since that's the case, why don't you strike first? Feng De continued to tempt him. After much observation, he felt that it was the most suitable to sell the alliance master of the second alliance to this man. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to him. However, this Lu Xiang was obviously too timid. Even at this time, he was still so afraid of the wolves in front and the tigers behind. Sigh. He really wasn't someone who could accomplish great things. Please read on /myboxn0vl, Lu Xiang lowered his head and pondered for a long while. Finally, he raised his head and said with a desperate look, "Good. I'm going all out, but don't ask for too much, I don't have much money." Ha ha ha. Don't worry. It's definitely a price you can afford. Feng De said calmly, but he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. This guy was quite interesting. The alliance masters of the two alliances weren't even in their hands yet. He was just afraid that they would sell them for too much and he wouldn't be able to afford them. Hee hee. Why didn't he think of taking advantage of the second alliance's master's current weak state to abduct that woman? However, it was fortunate that Lu Xiang did not think of this. Otherwise, wouldn't they have earned less? When do you plan to make your move? Lu Xiang asked impatiently. He was very afraid that the alliance master would punish him when he woke up, so he naturally hoped that these people would act quickly. What's the hurry? We have to make some preparations. Otherwise, people will be suspicious if both of you suddenly go missing. Feng De said. Well, that's true. I'll wait for your good news. Lu Xiang hurriedly said. Okay, but there are some things that we need you to cooperate with us. Feng De said. No problem, he said. Lu Xiang nodded in agreement. After the two sides reached a temporary agreement, Feng De brought his men back to the inn. On the way back, Lin Yuan asked in confusion, Captain, why don't we get the alliance master of the second alliance out now? In any case, she's already unconscious, and with her chi deviation, she probably won't have the mood to command her subordinates, hee hee. There's no hurry. We have to make Lu Xiang suffer a little. Otherwise, how could he be so good to that old woman? Hee hee. Feng De said with a smirk. To put it bluntly, he was the one who didn't trust that cowardly fence-sitter, Lu Xiang. He didn't even trust the leader of the Second Ascender Alliance. Ha ha ha. Captain, you're getting more and more naughty. Lin Yuan said with a face full of admiration. It's a must. Feng De said a little arrogantly, and the group returned to the inn while talking and laughing. After he returned, Feng De took the initiative to look for Leng Ruoxue and the others and told them about his plan. No one expressed any opinions on this. Ah. Miss, why aren't you guys saying anything? In the living room, looking at the silent crowd, Feng De felt a little uncertain. No one said anything, just looking at him. What was the meaning of this? Can you not be so scary? What did we say? Didn't you already plan everything? Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Ah. If you have any different opinions, you can voice them out. Feng De was a little speechless. Did these people want to be hands-off managers? How could this be? We have no objections. Well, do it according to your idea. Master Ning said, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. How did my good daughter train these subordinates? Each one of them had so many bad ideas, and when they pranked people, it was even more frightening. Why were there not many of their Ning family subordinates who were so clever? He had never thought that the Ning family's guards were too rigid, but now, he deeply thought so. All right then. I'll send someone to monitor their every move. Feng De said helplessly. In the following days, the alliance master of the second alliance woke up, and Lu Xiang naturally became the first victim. She locked him up and ordered people to punish him. Lu Xiang, who was locked up in the room, was covered in wounds. His heart was filled with hatred for the alliance master of the second alliance. Now, his only hope was for Feng De and the others to come quickly and save him. That way, he would be able to escape and the alliance master would fall into his hands. When that time came, he would torture her well, and he would definitely pay back the humiliation he had suffered in the past few days. However, after waiting for a few days, the person he had been waiting for did not come to save him. Instead, the alliance master kept sending people to teach him a lesson, which gradually deepened his hatred for the alliance master. A few days later, when Lu Xiang woke up, he found himself in a different place, and he was lying on a bed. Where was this place? Lu Xiang was puzzled. He could even feel that all his injuries had healed. Who had saved him? Just as he was thinking about it, Feng De and the others walked in. They looked at his confused face and said, "You're awake? You saved me." After seeing Feng De, Lu Xiang asked despite knowing the answer. "Who else do you think it is?" Feng De asked with a smile. He knew that this guy had suffered a lot in the past few days. Although the chief of the second league was recuperating, he did not forget to send people to torture him. Because that woman had blamed Lu Xiang for his qi deviation, so Lu Xiang had become the scapegoat of those rats. This was something that could not be helped. As the alliance master, he couldn't possibly seek revenge from those rats. That would be so embarrassing. "Thank you for saving me," Lu Xiang said gratefully. Then, he could not help but ask, "When will your plan be implemented? Don't you still need my cooperation? However, I'm now a sinner of the two alliances, I'm afraid I can't help you much." "It's okay, we have our own arrangements," Feng De said nonchalantly. In fact, he did not expect this guy to be of any help. He just wanted to drive a deeper wedge between them. Therefore, he did not execute their plan immediately. Now that he had achieved his goal, Lu Xiang's last use was to buy the second league's leader who had lost his mind. That's good. If you want to know more about the alliance master, I can still provide you with some information, Lu Xiang said after some thought. He knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Since these people had saved them and made an agreement with him, he had to pay them something in return. Otherwise, these people would not trust him. It was better for him to say it first than to wait for them to greet him. "There's no hurry. Let's talk about it after you recover from your injuries," Feng De said considerately. Although they had brought Lu Xiang back, they did not give him any good medicine. Therefore, he would need to recuperate for a few days. "All right," he said. Lu Xiang nodded and did not speak. "Have a good rest. We won't disturb you any longer." After Feng De finished speaking, he turned around and left with everyone. 3 days later, Lu Xiang's injuries were almost healed. Looking at the listless Lu Xiang, Feng De chuckled and asked, "Your injuries are basically healed. Why do you still look so listless?" Chapter 1303, Taking the Initiative to Visit, 1. Lu Xiang opened his mouth but hesitated. In fact, he was still a little afraid. He was afraid that the Ascender Alliance would seek revenge. After all, he wanted to buy the alliance master of the two alliances of the Divine Realm, not some random nobody. Lu Xiang. At this point, there's no point in being afraid. Moreover, in the eyes of the two alliances, he was already a dead person. Who would suspect a dead person? However, if you're soft-hearted and can't bear to take revenge on that old woman, then we won't force you, Feng De said in an understanding manner. I want revenge, Lu Xiang said ruthlessly. No man would be able to stand being treated like this. That's more like it, You just need to prepare the money and wait for us to hand the person over to you. You don't have to worry about anything else. Fengde said. Okay, I'll be waiting for your good news then. Lu Xiang nodded. After 2 more days, Leng Ruoxue saw that there was still no movement from the Ascendants Union, so she decided to pay them a visit personally. At the same time, she couldn't help but grumble in her heart. The efficiency of this great power was really low. It had been so long, yet they still hadn't come to cause trouble. Sigh. They had waited so long that they were about to go moldy. In fact, the people from the Second Alliance didn't come not because they didn't want to, but because their leader had suffered from qi deviation and was busy healing his injuries, so he couldn't care less. After making the decision, Leng Ruoxue brought Fengde and the rest and headed straight to the residence of the 2 alliances. When they arrived at the entrance of the house, Fengde smiled at Leng Ruoxue and said, Miss, why don't we copy the Second League and surround this house? We only have this many people, and you want to surround this house? Fengde, do you know what it means to be a copycat? If we want to be different from the rest, how can we learn from others? Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. That's right. Little brat. We have to do something different. The master of the Ning family agreed. What's different? Fengde asked, a little dumbfounded. In his opinion, there were only a few ways to lure the other party out. The first was to break the door open, the second was to make a loud noise, and the third was to sneak in quietly and catch him off guard. However, none of these methods could be considered unique, right? Take a note and say that we want to meet the Second Alliance's leader, Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Ah. Pay respects. Miss, we're here to cause trouble. Fengde couldn't help but remind him. He muttered in his heart, do you have to be so polite to mess up the place? He even sent a visiting card. Well, use peaceful means before resorting to force. Since we're the ones who took the initiative, there must be a reason to take action. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com. Alright then. Fengde had no choice but to take out a piece of paper from his storage ring and write a few words on it as a note. Then, he went to knock on the door. He had just knocked a few times when an impatient voice came from inside the door. Who is it? Why can't you let me sleep in so early in the morning? Then, the door was opened. The guard who opened the door saw Fengde, who was dressed in black, and was stunned. He even rubbed his eyes, clearly not fully awake. Who are you? After a while, the guard finally sobered up. Looking at the people dressed in black outside the door, his heart trembled because he had a bad feeling in his heart. They came with ill intentions. We're here to see the Second Alliance's leader. This is our letter of visit. As Fengde spoke, he handed over the thin piece of paper. He. They were dressed very formally today. Everyone was dressed in black from head to toe, just to show that they were from the same place. When he saw the guard's dumbfounded expression, he knew that the other party was shocked. When the guard heard Fengde's words, he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and took the piece of paper. His heart was filled with fear. This was the first time he had seen someone's letter of visit written on paper in all his years as a guard. The paper was obviously crumpled, and there was a yellow stain on it. It really made people speechless. You guys wait here. I'll go report to the Alliance Master. The guard didn't take them to heart, and with a change of thought, he gave a perfunctory reply. Go. By the way, let me tell your president that if she doesn't get the hell out in 3 minutes, we'll have to break in. However, I'm sure she doesn't dare to see anyone with her ugly appearance now, so why don't we just break in now? It'll also save you the trouble. Fengde suddenly said as the guard was about to close the door. His words almost angered the guard to death. You. How dare you say such things about our president? You must be tired of living. The guard stammered for a long time before he finally cursed. Little brat. A lot of people have said, I don't want to live anymore, but I've lived longer than any of them, and I believe that I'll definitely live longer than you. Do you believe me? Feng said with a smile that was not a smile. He then grabbed the guard by the collar and pulled him in front of him. I believe you. Quickly let go of me. The guard said gloomily. His strength was obviously higher than the other party, but he was pulled up by the other party as if he was a little chick. Woo! What the hell was this? They were really bullying him. Since you know, quickly go and report. My patience is limited. Feng said viciously. After he finished speaking, he threw the guard on the ground. The guard who had regained his freedom was so scared that he scrambled away from the door and ran towards the courtyard. He even forgot to close the door. Looking at the open door, Feng turned around and asked, Miss, should we go in directly? Go in. The second alliance's leader won't come out. Leng Ruoxu understood. After she finished speaking, she was the first one to step through the door. Feng De and the rest followed closely behind. This house was not very big and one could see the end of it with one glance. Other than the main courtyard, there were two other courtyards where the guards stayed. However, the guards were obviously not in high spirits and were all listless. They only noticed the arrival of these uninvited guests when Leng Ruoxue and the rest came closer. Who are you? How did you get in? The guard captain asked with a vigilant look. Recently, because of the Alliance Master's chi deviation, they were all very depressed. At night, they would always be 120,000% alert to watch, and often couldn't even sleep. Therefore, his brothers were in a very bad mental state. Chapter 1304, Taking the Initiative to Visit. 2. Logically speaking, with their cultivation, it would be fine even if they didn't sleep for a few days and nights. However, after arriving at the Divine Mainland, they clearly weren't used to the climate here. The food they ate often caused them to have diarrhea, so they were extremely tired. Didn't the guard at the gate tell you who we are? He was the one who let us in. Leng Ruoxue laughed lightly. Looking at the mental state of the guards in front of her and comparing them to the guard just now, it wasn't hard to realize that being a gatekeeper was actually not a bad job. After all, unless one had extraordinary strength, no one would swagger in from the main entrance when they came to seek revenge. So, guarding the door had become the most relaxing job. Otherwise, that guard wouldn't have had the time to sleep in. Oh. You're here to see the Alliance Master? The captain of the guards asked carefully. He seemed to have heard his subordinate mention that there was someone outside who wanted to see the Alliance Master. Of course, who else would come here? That's right, quickly send your Alliance Master to his death. Don't waste everyone's time. Leng Ruoxue said impatiently. Of course, she was also trying to provoke the guards. Damn it. What did you just say? You dare to send our Alliance Master to his death? When the captain of the guards heard Leng Ruoxue's words, his heart was filled with anger. The woman in front of him was so devastatingly beautiful, but he did not expect her words to be so vicious. He even dared to send their Alliance Master to his death, He really didn't know how high the sky was or how thick the earth was. When their Alliance Master came out, who knew who would be the one dead? He couldn't help but think to himself. All right. Your Alliance Master doesn't need to come out and die. Well, personally send her on her way, that should be fine, right? Leng Ruoxue said, changing the soup but not the medicine. The leader of the guards wanted to say, this is more like it, but he quickly realized what was going on. What are you talking about? Our Alliance Master is a god king. How could a puny mid-level deity like you do anything to her? God king? I'm afraid that even a profound god would be able to deal with a divine king who has gone berserk. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. The more powerful a deity was, the more severe the consequences of chi deviation would be. She was also very clear that the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was severely injured. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been no news from him for so many days. Such big words. I'm not that weak. Suddenly, a cold female voice rang in Leng Ruoxue's and the others' ears. Leng Ruoxue and the rest looked in the direction of the voice and saw a graceful lady walking towards them leisurely. Behind her, there were a few extremely handsome young men surrounding her. However, although this woman had an outstanding temperament, her face was covered with a veil, only revealing a pair of beautiful eyes that were sizing up the crowd. Leng Ruoxue and the rest did not have to guess to know that this lady was the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance's second alliance. Because of her cultivation method, the woman's body always exuded an alluring aura. Every frown and smile carried infinite charm. If it wasn't for the fact that she had yet to fully recover from her chi deviation, she would definitely be an irresistible beauty that could topple a country. However, most women didn't want to see a woman more beautiful than themselves appear in front of them, especially a woman who couldn't see anyone for the time being. Seeing a woman who was several times more beautiful than them was almost the same as seeing the enemy who killed her father. "Who are you? What do you want to see me for?" The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance asked arrogantly as she held her head high. She hated this woman in front of her for no reason. If she had to find someone, the only sin she could have was that she was prettier than her. Please read on /myboxn0vl, com, Leng Ruoxue. Didn't the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance come all the way from the God world for me? I heard that the Second Alliance's Alliance Master was careless in his cultivation and caused chi deviation, so I'm here to offer my condolences. Leng Ruoxue laughed. "You're Leng Ruoxue?" The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance narrowed her eyes and gritted her teeth. That's right, she had come to the Divine Mainland to get rid of Leng Ruoxue. However, she had not expected Leng Ruoxue to be so beautiful. If that was the case, this woman deserved to die even more. The current her could not bear to see any other woman who was more beautiful than her. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance is injured. Could it be that his brain is also damaged? Didn't I say that I'm Leng Ruoxue? Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. You're really bold. You know my identity and you still dare to speak to me like this. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said, suppressing his anger. How else do you want me to talk to you? I'm not your subordinate, so there's no need for me to be so respectful to you. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Did the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance think that this was their territory? In the divine world, only the strong are respected. You are just a puny mid-level deity, shouldn't you be respectful when you see me? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance sneered. Oh. The strong are respected. However, this is the godly mainland. Are you sure that you can defeat me? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. He's just an ant, do you think I'd put him in my eyes? The Alliance Masters of the two alliances were extremely proud. They did not even care about Leng Ruoxue, a mid-stage deity. However, Leng Ruoxue did not mind. Second Alliance Master, have you ever heard of the story of an ant biting an elephant to death? Don't look down on any ant, because who knows when you'll fall into the hands of an ant you look down on. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Enough with the nonsense, let me teach you a good lesson, you ant. After the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance finished speaking, he was about to attack Leng Ruoxue. However, he was stopped by a man beside her. Alliance Master, wait. A man hurriedly said. What's wrong? Don't tell me you have an outside heart and have taken a fancy to this little vixen. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance said with jealousy. Alliance Master, what are you thinking? I just wanted to help you teach her a lesson. The man said helplessly, his face full of sincerity. This is more like it. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance was very satisfied with the man's words. However, while she was satisfied, Leng Ruoxue, who had been shot while lying down, was depressed. Who had she offended? She didn't do anything, how did she become a little demon? Sob. She felt so wronged. Chapter 1305, Taking the Initiative to Visit. 3. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance spoke to the man beside him as if there was no one else around. Then, the man glared at Leng Ruoxue and said, "You're not worthy of our Alliance Master's attack. Your opponent is me. You're not worthy of my Shui Heir's attack. Your opponent is me." The demon laughed. "Who are you?" The man's eyes widened as he looked at the handsome man in front of him and asked with jealousy. "Why do you care who I am?" The demon said in an unpleasant tone, "Humph." He didn't like the way this man was looking at his Shui-er. With this guy's little thoughts, he wanted Shui-er to fight with him. No way. He would clean up first. What big words. "I'll teach you a lesson now." After the man finished speaking, he threw the divine power he had gathered at the demon. Seeing this, the demon unhurriedly released a black ball of divine power from his hand and threw it out. The black ball of divine power circled around the demon twice as if it was acting coquettishly, then happily pounced toward the divine power that the other party had released, and began to fight with it. "Hey! Who do you think will win?" The great elder asked curiously as he looked at the two balls of divine power. The divine power released by the two of them was one large and one small. The large one was like a blue ball, while the small one, which was the demon's, was only the size of a baby's fist. When the great elder saw the huge difference between the two balls of divine power, his jaw almost dropped. How was he going to fight? Of course it's my future son-in-law who will win. Who does that kid think he is? The master of the Ning family frowned as he looked at the divine powers that were entangled with each other. He was very supportive of himself. In fact, he was not sure if the monster would win because he had rarely seen the monster in action. Therefore, other than knowing that the monster had the strength of a high-level deity, he knew nothing about the monster's strength. Yes, that's right. That freak will definitely win. Hearing Master Ning's words, the first elder also cooperated. However, their soft discussion was very harsh to the man's ears. "Humph. Where did you old things come from? How dare you make such irresponsible remarks?" The man roared angrily. He was clearly stronger than this demonic man, so why didn't anyone say he would win? He was so angry. "Can't we talk about it? You didn't want us to say it, but we're going to say it. You're going to lose." The master of the Ning family said stubbornly, "Humph." He really was a stinky brat who didn't know how to respect the old and cherish the young. He even dared to scold him. He really didn't want to live anymore. Yes. You don't even know him. It'd be strange if you didn't lose. The first elder said with an evil smile. "Old man, they're also scolding you. You can actually still laugh. It seems that the two of us haven't been in the divine realm for a long time. Even a few lowly lackeys dare to make a big fuss in front of us." The master of the Ning family said unhappily. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com, if he likes to scold, then scold. I've been scolded by a dog. Do you think I can lower myself to scold a dog? The first elder nonchalantly said. You're right, a human shouldn't stoop to the level of a dog. The master of the Ning family nodded. Just who are you people? At this time, the leader of the Second Alliance, who had heard their conversation, looked at the master of the Ning family and the first elder with vigilance. To be honest, she was familiar with these two people, but she couldn't remember where she had seen them before. However, after listening to their conversation, she began to doubt their identity. Since Leng Ruoxue dared to look for her so brazenly, she must have some backing. Hence, she had no choice but to be on high alert in case she lost everything. In reality, she realized it a little too late. Ever since she gave the order to deal with Leng Ruoxue and the others, she had already lost. Furthermore, she had lost everything. They are my godfather. Leng Ruoxue laughed. Yes, Im Shui Heir's god-grandfather. The great elder added. Damn old man, do you have to be older than me? The master of the Ning family said through gritted teeth. Hee. It's my fault for getting to know Shui first. The great elder had an evil smile on his face and was extremely pleased in his heart. Godfather, great elder, You can argue, but can you not scold the dog? The dog is innocent. How can he be compared to the dog? At this moment, Leng Ruoxue said with a hint of dissatisfaction. In her previous life, her favorite animal was a dog. So, when she saw her godfather and great elder comparing that man to a dog, she naturally wanted to vent her grievances for the dog. Good, good. He's even worse than a dog, that should be enough. The master of the Ning family and the great elder corrected him in unison. Yes, he's worse than a pig or a dog. Leng Ruoxue nodded in satisfaction. Damn it, who are they? When the alliance master of the second alliance saw how Leng Ruoxue and the other two were ignoring her, he could not help but shout. I've said it before. They are my godfather. Don't you understand? Leng Ruoxue was speechless. Her face was filled with sympathy. I know they're your godfather. I'm asking about their identities. The alliance master of the second alliance said, suppressing his anger. They are my godfather. Leng Ruoxue played dumb. MMH. That's right. The master of the Ning family and the great elder nodded in agreement. The second alliance's leader almost exploded in anger when she saw them echoing each other. Then, she couldn't help but shout at the man who was competing with the evildoer, why haven't you dealt with him yet? Why are you still dawdling? When the man heard the second alliance's leader's words, he cursed in his heart. Fuck, did he think he didn't want to take down this man? However, even though the Shin power that he released was small, it was very cunning and agile. His Shin power was rapidly being lost. At this time, he still did not know that his Shin power had been swallowed by the black Shin power ball. Otherwise, he would have been depressed to death. Alliance Master of the Second Alliance, I see that you're quite free. Why don't we exchange a few moves? Leng Ruoxue suggested with a smile. Humph. You're asking for it. The moment the Alliance Master finished speaking, he immediately made his move. In an instant, a light blue divine power pounced towards Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue looked at the light blue divine power that was just short distance away and chuckled as she released her fire attribute divine power. The moment the dazzling flame appeared, it instantly dried up the surrounding air. Fengde and the rest quickly jumped away from their mist side to avoid being affected by the scorching flames. They had a deep understanding of how powerful the young mist flames were. Chapter 1306, Taking the Initiative to Visit. 4. The soaring flames gradually condensed into a small and exquisite fire dragon. The fire dragon's body flickered with a faint purple light, and it was exceptionally beautiful. The small fire dragon did not forget to show off its beauty, and it kept flying up and down in the air until the light blue divine power was in front of it. It was only then that it unwillingly welcomed it. In the blink of an eye, the two strands of divine power were entangled. In an instant, the light blue divine power was swallowed by the hot flames. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance looked at the scene in disbelief. How? How was this possible? Her divine power had actually disappeared. This was too unbelievable. She didn't dare to believe her eyes. What the hell is this? The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared, unwilling to accept this fact. Little dragon. Someone said you're a ghost. You can do whatever you want to teach her. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. After her natal flame had leveled up several times, it could already understand the words of others. As for its master, it would listen to everything she said. Therefore, when she sensed the little fire dragon's dissatisfaction with the Second Alliance Master, she naturally had to support her own flame. The little fire dragon's head nodded twice before it flew towards the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. It circled around the Alliance Master and after a while, it returned to Leng Ruoxue's side and obediently wrapped itself around her wrist. Then, everyone saw the clothes on the leader of the Second League, including the veil on her face and her hair. Everything that could fall off was thrown away. In an instant, her white body was revealed to everyone. Oh my God! Wasn't the leader of the Second Alliance as beautiful as a flower? Why is it an old lady? AI. You can't believe rumors. Fodder said, trying to hold back his laughter. It's probably because the wise stop rumors. I've never believed that the president of the Second Alliance was a beauty, and now it's been confirmed. Lin Yuan also chimed in. Their conversation angered the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance so much that he almost fainted. At this time, the men behind her were all dumbfounded and could not react in time, which made the Alliance Master even more furious. You're all dead. Hurry up and give me my clothes. The Alliance Master of the Second Alliance roared angrily. Since Len Ruoxue had embarrassed her so much, she would definitely not let her off. However, before the men behind her could remove their clothes for her, Len Ruoxue interrupted them with a smile. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? Let me help her. With that, Len Ruoxue ordered the little fire dragon to attack once more, burning the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. This time, it was a real burn, and it directly burned the flesh on the Alliance Master's body, causing her to faint from the pain. After the little fire dragon left, the Second Alliance Master's body was already charred black. There was no need for clothes to cover it, so nothing could be seen. However, Len Ruoxue knew very well that the Second Alliance Master was still alive. The little fire dragon had controlled his strength when he attacked. Otherwise, that woman would have disappeared from this world long ago. After dealing with the Alliance Masters of the two alliances, Len Ruoxue gave Fodder and the rest a look. Fodder and the rest immediately understood and swiftly captured all the guards and the men. When the demon who had been playing hide-and-seek with the man saw this, he stopped teasing him and released a strand of divine power thinner than a strand of hair to tie the man up. Please read on /myboxn0vl, the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance had brought his subordinates here in high spirits to seek revenge. However, who knew that something unexpected would happen? First, he suffered from chi deviation and his strength was greatly reduced. Then, his subordinates lost their will and were like a plate of loose sand. Hence, they were destined to lose. However, they were very surprised to lose so easily. They even thought that the people from the two alliances were just embroidered pillows who looked strong on the outside but were actually weak on the inside. They were really useless. In reality, they had really wronged the people from the Second Alliance. It was not that the Second Alliance was useless, but because they had encountered Len Ruoxue and the others who did not play by the rules. Previously, when Fodder brought his men to cause trouble, it had already caused them a lot of mental pressure. Hence, they had been in a state of high tension. In addition to the incident with their Alliance Master, they had lost their backbone. Naturally, they had to be controlled by Len Ruoxue and the others. Chapter 1307, Bai Xu's Clansmen, 1. Not only that, the people from the Second Alliance would never have dreamed that Len Ruoxue and the others would dare to come to their door directly. They were not prepared at all and had even beaten them to a pulp. After the previous incident, most of the people the Alliance Master had brought were the elites of the Second Alliance, each of them with extraordinary strength. How could they have lost so easily? And he lost in such a baffling way. However, Len Ruoxue did not care about the thoughts of the people from the two alliances. After capturing them all alive, she brought them back to the inn. Other than the Alliance Masters from the two alliances, she handed everyone else over to Zheng Yan to deal with. As for who Zheng Yan wanted to sell them to, she did not care. Fodder brought the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance to Lu Xiang's room. Lu Xiang, here is your goods, pay up. Fodder threw the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance on the ground like trash and said to Lu Xiang. Ah! This is the leader of the Second Alliance. Lu Xiang's eyes were wide open as he looked at the black object lying on the ground in disbelief. The object was completely black, and he couldn't even make out a person's face. Was this really the Second Alliance's leader? He didn't dare to believe it. Besides, if the leader of the Second Alliance had really become like this, he would really have to consider whether he should buy it or not. After all, who would want to cultivate with a piece of burnt coal? It's the real deal, I'm absolutely honest in my business. Don't worry, just buy it. Fodder said with a smile. But how did the Second Alliance's leader become like this? She's like this now. Lu Xiang wanted to say something, but he stopped. He looked very troubled. Wu. Can I return the goods? How can we catch her if we don't turn her into this? Don't worry. It's just a superficial wound, she'll be fine after a few days. Of course, if you think she's old, that's another matter. Feng De said with an understanding look. Oh. How much is she? Lu Xiang asked unwillingly. In fact, he really wanted to give up, but he was afraid that the other party would turn against him, so he could only force himself to buy this black thing. How much money do you have? Feng De didn't answer and asked instead. He was willing to sell this woman to Lu Xiang. He didn't want to make money. However, it didn't make sense if he didn't accept it. After all, they had worked hard. They couldn't do it for free. I only have 500 top-grade crystals. Lu Xiang thought for a moment and said. Of course, he would not reveal all of his wealth, but this amount was almost equivalent to more than half of his wealth accumulated over the years. 800 high-grade crystals. I'll sell this woman to you. Feng De chuckled. In fact, they knew very well how much Lu Xiang's assets were. However, they would not let him spend all his savings. However, they would have the final say on how much money they could pay to buy this woman. How about 600? I really don't have much money. Lu Xiang said with a long face. Wu, is it easy for him to save some money? But now, most of his money had to be used to buy this piece of charcoal. To be honest, he regretted not wanting this item. However, in the face of the fierce Feng De and the others, he did not dare to refuse. Therefore, he could only use the method of lowering the price to make the other party give up on their own initiative. Unfortunately, Feng De would not let him have it. 800 it is, no bargaining. If you don't want to buy it, then we can only say sorry. Feng De smiled eerily at Lu Xiang, as if he was saying, if you don't want to buy it, then stay with us. Buy. I'll buy it. Lu Xiang made up his mind and said while gritting his teeth. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com, that's more like it. With this woman here, your strength can improve quickly. Although she looks a little old now, she is still a woman. You won't be at a disadvantage. Feng De patted Lu Xiang's shoulder and consoled him as if they were good brothers. Pay up now. Then, Feng De said impatiently. Here you go. Lu Xiang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, unwillingly took out 800 top-grade crystal stones from his ring, and handed them to Feng De. Hee. Now that the deal is done, this woman is yours. I'll let you do whatever you want with me. After Feng De finished speaking with an ambiguous look, he turned around and left Lu Xiang's room. The reason why he could leave at ease was because he had drugged the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance. Therefore, even if the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance woke up, he would not be able to cause any big waves. As for Lu Xiang, he did not have the courage to do so. Just as he had expected, on the night Lu Xiang bought the Second Alliance's master, he took the Second Alliance's master's bag and left quietly in the dark. As he watched Lu Xiang's back grow smaller and smaller, Feng De turned to Lin Ruoxue and said, Miss, you let them go so easily? In fact, according to his plan, he wanted Lu Xiang to stay for a few more days, and at the same time, he wanted to give him some counseling, in case he couldn't see the situation clearly and was controlled by that woman again. However, the miss was very assured of Lu Xiang and let them go directly. What else? Don't worry. Lu Xiang won't let the Alliance Master of the Second Alliance have it easy. Lin Ruoxu understood. A man like Lu Xiang, who had been oppressed for a long time, would definitely take revenge on those who had oppressed him once he had the chance to turn things around. Therefore, the leader of the Second Alliance would definitely not have an easy life in the future. He might even be worse than a slave. This was also the main reason why she did not turn the leader of the Second Alliance into a slave. She wanted the leader of the Second Alliance to not be a slave, but to enjoy the treatment of a slave. That's true, miss. Where are we going next? Feng De asked with a smile. Of course, we're going back to the mountain. All of you should go and cultivate. Leng Ruoxue reminded. For the past 3 years, Feng De and the rest had only been focused on traveling around the continent, so their cultivation had not improved much. Hence, after the matter here was settled, she planned to bring them back to Nightmare Forest to supervise their cultivation. Yes. Feng De replied obediently. It was time for them to focus on their cultivation. Even though their travels in the continent had broadened their horizons, their cultivation had been delayed. When they saw that their young miss was about to advance to the high-level deity stage, they were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. The next day, Leng Ruoxue and the rest set out on their way home. When the genius from the Qi clan found out that Leng Ruoxue and the rest were safe, he wanted to pay them a visit. However, he was rejected. It was only then that he found out that they had already left. Chapter 1308, Bai Xu's Clansmen, 2. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest returned to their home in the Nightmare Forest, they felt a sense of familiarity. After everyone had a good meal, Feng De and the rest requested to go into closed-door cultivation. After they went into closed-door cultivation, the large courtyard became quiet and cheerless. After the Ning family's master, Grand Elder, and the rest stayed for a few days, they returned to the firmament temporarily. In a short while, the entire house was once again left with Leng Ruoxue, the demon, Ziyu, Yuqing, and Shuang. Most of Leng Ruoxue's spirit beasts had chosen to go into seclusion. Shuang, who had no spirit beasts to accompany her, lay in the garden and slept all day long. That huge body of his had almost filled the entire garden. Under the reflection of the sun, Shuaying's snow-white fur emitted a faint silver glow. Leng Ruoxue could not help but feel an unbearable itch in her heart. Oh! She really wanted to touch it. It felt so good. However, she could only think about it now, and did not dare to touch Shuang at all. This was because she, who had learned from her previous experience, was very afraid that Shuang would say something like, "Only my woman can touch me," so she could only endure it. Looking at Leng Ruoxue drooling at Shuang, the demon could not help but laugh. He simply hugged Shuang in his arms so that she would not keep thinking about touching other beastie. Wasn't it just a body of beautiful fur? What's so great about it? He thought to himself indignantly. Sister! Suddenly, a small cry entered Leng Ruoxue's ears. Following that, a small, snow-white ball of fur appeared in her arms. Xiao Xiao, where did you go to play? Leng Ruoxue raised the palm-sized little fellow in her arms and asked with a face full of curiosity. These few days, this little fellow had been running out of the house every 2 to 3 days. Who knew what he was secretly busy with? Sister! I've made a new friend, but he's too timid to come with me to see you, so I've been trying to convince him these days. Xiao Xiao was very honest. What new friend? Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face was filled with curiosity. It was a good thing that Xiao Xiao could make friends, but why was she being so mysterious? Come out! Little White! Xiao Xiao shouted at a rock in the corner. Leng Ruoxue followed Xiao Xiao's voice and looked towards the corner. She saw a small figure hiding behind the rock. Only a small gray but was exposed, and it was still trembling slightly. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but feel curious. What kind of little beast was this? Why are you so timid? Little White. Seeing that Xiaobai was too afraid to come out, Xiao Xiao had no choice but to go and pull its new friend out from behind the rock. The little beastie that was pulled out by Xiao Xiaoqiang was covered in dust and looked so dirty that its original color could not be seen. However, its pair of blue, watery eyes were unusually bright and clear, which made people's hearts soften. When the little beast saw the strangers, it was obviously afraid. It hid behind Xiao Xiao, and its body, which was even smaller than Xiao Xiao's, kept trembling. However, its pair of light blue eyes peeked timidly at Leng Ruoxue and the others. Please read on/myboxn0vl, com. Seeing this, Yuqing walked forward with a smile and took the little beast into her arms, comforting it, "Don't be afraid. I'm Xiaoxiao's mother, and that young lady is our master. I'll take you to take a bath first, and we'll come back to play with Xiao Xiao later. As a mother, she could tell that this little fellow had just been born. Furthermore, it probably did not have any parents to take care of it. That was why it looked like a little beggar. Looking at this little beast, she couldn't help but think of Xiao Xiao. If Xiao Xiao had not met her young miss not long after she was born, who knew what would have happened to her? It was very difficult for such a small beast to survive in the forest, and some of the more gifted beasts might even be attacked by a group. Therefore, after seeing this little thing, her heart ached for it. After Yu Qing carried the dirty little beast out of the garden, she went straight to her room, intending to help the little beast wash up. As for Leng Ruoxue, she asked about the little beast's situation. Who knew that Xiao Xiao would answer her questions in such a manner that she did not manage to get any information at all? Sister. I really don't know what kind of beastie it is. It was only born a few days ago, even younger than me. Xiao Xiao knew that Leng Ruoxue was not satisfied with her answer. She said in an aggrieved tone, "Whoa. That beastie can't even finish its sentence. It was so dirty, who could tell what breed it was? Then you're going to bring it back?" Leng Ruoxue asked, feeling a little speechless. Sister, it's so pitiful. When I see it, it reminds me of myself back then. At least I was doing better than it at that time. Xiao Xiao said with a look of sympathy. Is Little White its name? Leng Ruoxue thought for a while and asked. Yes, it told me that it's called Little White. However, I think it's more suitable for Little Gray. Xiao Xiao said with an evil smile. You naughty little thing. Leng Ruoxue rubbed her little fur and said in a pampering tone. At the same time, Yu Qing carried the washed Little White to the garden again. Miss, so Little White is a little white tiger. What a pretty little fellow. Yu Qing said with a smile. When Leng Ruoxue heard Yu Qing's words, she turned her gaze to the little white tiger in her arms. This should be a little white tiger that was not yet a month old. The silver stripes on its body were still not very clear, and the word, King, on its forehead had not fully unfolded. At this moment, it looked more like a cute, harmless little kitten, and its light blue watery eyes were still a little timid. Taking the little white tiger from Yu Qing, Leng Ruoxue smiled and comforted, Don't be afraid. We won't hurt you, but you have to tell us, where are your parents? Why are you running around on your own? Leng Ruoxue was very curious about this little white tiger that was alone. She had once heard Bai Xu mention that the bigger the divine beast clan, the more they would care about their offspring. Even if there were orphans in the clan, there would be someone to take care of them. Therefore, it was almost impossible for them to be alone. However, it had happened now. Therefore, she could not help but be suspicious. And my mother is sick, so I came out to look for food. The little white tiger said timidly. It wanted to find something to eat, but because it was weak, it couldn't find anything. If it hadn't met Xiao Xiao, it would have starved to death. Chapter 1309, Bai Xu's Clansmen, 3, Your mother is sick. Where was it? Maybe I can help it. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. She wasn't a warm-hearted person, but who asked her to have a white tiger among her beasts? The mother who saved it might be able to ask about the situation of Bai Xu's relatives, because she knew very well that Bai Xu missed home and his relatives. In addition, she didn't want this cute little guy to be without the care of his parents. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the little white tiger hesitated. Even though it had only been born for a few days, its intelligence was not low. It wanted to save its mother, but it did not want the human in front of it to bring any danger to its mother. To put it bluntly, it did not trust humans very much, but it did not doubt this beautiful human sister in front of it. Xiao Bai, quickly bring us to your mother. I can save your mother. Seeing that Xiao Bai did not respond for a long time, Xiao Xiao could not help but urge. Yes. The little white tiger nodded its little head and finally made up its mind. Following that, it led the way, leading Leng Ruoxue and the rest to the cave where the mother and son were temporarily staying. Inside the cave. he saw a woman lying on the grass-covered ground, covered in blood. She was on her last breath. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest walked closer, the woman with a weak aura suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Leng Ruoxue and the rest with vigilance. Who are you? How did he find this place? The child. Give me back my child. When the woman saw the little white tiger in Leng Ruoxue's arms, she struggled to get up from the ground. However, her injuries were too severe, and it was obvious that she could not do it. Don't hurt my child, it's still young. The woman pleaded with tears in her eyes. We didn't want to hurt it. It brought us here. Leng Ruoxue explained helplessly. A mother beast that protected its cub was worthy of respect. Thinking of this, she handed the little white tiger in her arms to the woman. Seeing the woman holding the little white tiger tightly, her entire body trembling, she could not help but sigh in her heart. Whether it was a human or a beast, their love for their children was the same. Thank you. The woman said weakly. She was thanking Leng Ruoxue for returning the child to her. She also knew that the other party had no ill intentions. She could not help but feel a little ashamed for her lack of manners earlier. Eat this. Leng Ruoxue handed over a milky white pill that exuded a sweet fragrance. The woman looked at the pill but did not take it immediately. Instead, she looked at Leng Ruoxue deeply and said, Thank you. I will remember your kindness. After saying that, the woman took the pill and ate it without hesitation. Please read on /myboxn0vl, After a while, the woman's injuries were completely healed. However, she had not changed her clothes, so it was still a shocking sight. You're from the White Tiger clan? Leng Ruoxue asked when she saw that the woman's injuries had recovered. Yes, I am. The woman nodded. There was nothing to hide. She would be surprised if the other party couldn't guess it after seeing her child. I want to understand the White Tiger clan's recent situation. Leng Ruoxue asked directly. To these prideful beastie, there were times when it was better to speak out their thoughts directly. The current White Tiger race can no longer be compared to the past. I can only tell you this much. As for the rest, please forgive me for not being able to comment. The woman said after some thought. Oh. What are your plans after this? Seeing that the woman was not willing to tell her, Leng Ruoxue did not force her. After all, she would find out about it when she went to the God world. I have to leave this place. I wonder if you can help me take care of my child. The woman said embarrassedly. Her beautiful face was slightly red. Obviously, she knew that her request was a little too much. After all, he was not related to her and had saved her. However, she still wanted him to help take care of her child. This was a little unreasonable, but she had no other choice. No problem. When do you plan to leave? Leng Ruoxue nodded in agreement. I want to leave now. The woman couldn't help but be overjoyed when she saw the other party agree. Then you can go. This is for you. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she took out a bottle of pills and passed it over. Thank you. I will definitely repay you. The woman said after hesitating. Well, talk when you're back. Leng Ruoxue said. Even though this lady didn't say it explicitly, she knew very well that the little white tiger's mother would most likely die after leaving this time. The chances of her coming back alive were extremely slim. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so hesitant. Thank you, he said. After thanking the little white tiger again and again, the woman got closer to it for a while before leaving reluctantly. Mother. Looking at the woman's back view, the little white tiger cried very sadly. The snow-white fur on its body was wet with tears. Don't cry, your mother will come back for you. Leng Ruoxue hugged the little white tiger and consoled it. Yes. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the little white tiger curled itself into a ball and lay in her arms. Although it had stopped crying, tears still welled up in its eyes. It looked at Yu Qing and the rest with heartache. After returning to the main residence with the little white tiger in his arms, the little white tiger lay in a corner gloomily for several days, ignoring everyone. "Miss, it seems like the little white tiger's mother's departure is quite a blow to it. What if," sitting on a chair in the garden, Yuqing looked at the little white tiger lying in the corner. She could not continue, and her face was full of worry. "Don't worry. She'll be back," Leng Ruoxue said with absolute certainty. The determined look in the woman's eyes before she left made her believe that as long as she was still breathing, she would return to find her child. If it wasn't for the woman's determination, she wouldn't have been so nosy as to agree to help take care of the little white tiger. A month later, the little white tiger finally recovered. It was no longer hiding in a corner gloomily. Instead, it played with Xiao Xiao all day. Time passed day by day. Half a year later, the little white tiger's mother still had not returned. However, the little white tiger had become very familiar with Leng Ruoxue and the rest. Leng Ruoxue had also given the little white tiger the name Yuan Yuan. This was because the little white tiger had been raised by them until it was chubby and looked even cuter. However, other than the fact that the little white tiger had grown horizontally in the past half a year, it had not grown much. Chapter 13:10, Bai Xu's clansmen. 4. In the garden, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were preparing dinner when a knock suddenly sounded on the door. Ziyu went to open the door, only to find a man and a woman covered in wounds standing at the door. The two of them were supporting each other. After seeing Ziyu, they fell to the ground together without a word. Seeing this, Ziyu was stunned, but she still carried one person in each hand and brought them into the house. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest saw the object in Ziyu's hand, they were a little surprised. "Ziyu, what are you holding in your hand?" Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. "Miss, I'm carrying two people in my hands," Ziyu explained helplessly, and couldn't help but sigh. "Woo. Could it be that young miss has been with Beastie for so long that she doesn't even recognize people? Why are you picking up people too?" Yuqing said with some anger. It was fine if he usually picked up some small animals, but now he even picked up a person. This was really preposterous. In fact, Yuqing was angry mainly because Ziyu only cared about picking them up and didn't care how to deal with them. Therefore, those small animals that he picked up were all raised by Yuqing, so it would be strange if she wasn't angry. "I didn't pick them up. They came to me on their own accord, but they fainted without saying a word. So, I had to bring them back," Ziyu said, feeling wronged. "Oh." Leng Ruoxue nodded and walked forward to take a closer look. She then realized that they were familiar faces. "Yuqing, arrange a place for them to stay. They are Roly-Poly's parents." Leng Ruoxue understood. The man's injuries were obviously more serious than the woman's, and there were many old injuries. Therefore, she guessed that the woman had left in a hurry last time to save the little white tiger's father. When the woman left the last time, she had told the woman her address, which was why the couple had come to find her. The truth was similar to Leng Ruoxue's guess. The reason why the little white tiger's mother entrusted her child to her was because she was in a hurry to save her husband. After more than half a year of hard work, she finally succeeded. The first thing she did after she succeeded was to bring her husband to find her child and reunite with the family. Who knew that because the two of them were so severely injured, they had fainted outside the door before they could see Leng Ruoxue. When they woke up, it was already 3 days later. The first thing the two of them did when they woke up was to look for Leng Ruoxue. In the garden, Leng Ruoxue looked at the two people who had recovered from their injuries. She smiled faintly and said, "It looks like you're recovering well. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com, many thanks for young lattice life-saving grace. We husband and wife have no way to repay you. We are willing to acknowledge young lady as our master. We hope that young lady will not despise us." The two of them knelt in front of Leng Ruoxue and shouted. Acknowledging Leng Ruoxue as their master was something they had already discussed beforehand. After all, not only had Leng Ruoxue helped them take care of their child for so long, she had also saved their lives many times. Hence, they really did not know how to repay her. Beastie had always known how to repay kindness, otherwise, they would feel uneasy. I didn't save you to make you recognize me as your master. Len Ruoxue reminded as she looked at the two people kneeling in front of her. We know. We really don't know how to repay you, so we're willing to serve you. The man said. I understand your intentions, get up. Actually, all you need to do is to tell me about the white tiger race's current situation. I have a beastie that's also from the white tiger race, and he wants to know about the situation of his family. Len Ruoxue said with a light smile. Although she was not sure of the status of these two within the white tiger race, from the looks of their strength as 7th and 8th ranked sacred beasts, they should have a certain status within the race. Young Miss Beast is also from the white tiger clan? The man asked in shock. As one of the 4 great divine beast clans, the white tiger clan was similar to the other 3 clans. They would not easily acknowledge a human as their master. If Len Ruoxue had not saved their lives many times, they would not even want to acknowledge her as their master. Therefore, they were very surprised that Len Ruoxue had a white tiger as her contracted beast. Yup. I took that white tiger back when I was on the prismatic wind continent. Len Ruoxue chuckled. Oh. After the man heard this, he understood. So her beastie was the white tiger from the lower realm? That shouldn't be considered a clansman of their white tiger clan, right? Of course, he wouldn't say this out loud. Len Ruoxue was very clear about the man's thoughts. She did not say much and only smiled calmly. Then, she moved Bai Xu out of the bracelet. Chapter 13:11, Miss Yen, 1, when Bai Xu appeared, it was in its mimicry state. It jumped into Len Ruoxue's arms and its dark green eyes glanced at the couple before it lowered its head and started playing with its claws. When Len Ruoxue saw Bai Xu's expression, she knew that this proud little fellow was doing this on purpose. He probably knew that the 4 great divine beast clans with high status would not look down on a clansman from the Ling Wind continent. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but snicker to herself. Bai Xu was really narrow-minded. Actually, she felt that it was normal for the white tiger couple to have such thoughts. After all, the white tiger clan had always lived in the divine realm, so how would they know of the existence of such a lost white tiger like you? Although Bai Xu did not pay attention to the couple was shocked when they saw Bai Xu because Bai Xu actually had a pair of dark green eyes that represented the royal bloodline. This was really too inconceivable. One should know that the White Tiger King clan had been sealed away tens of thousands of years ago because they had offended an important figure in the divine realm. Then, what was going on with this white tiger with the royal bloodline? They couldn't understand it. What's wrong? Len Ruoxue pretended to be confused when she saw the white tiger couple's expressions. Miss, is this white tiger really from the lower realm? The man said in disbelief. Yup. Is there something wrong? Len Ruoxue played dumb. Miss, to tell you the truth, in our white tiger clan, only the royal family will have dark green eyes. Therefore, I suspect that it has the royal bloodline. The man thought for a moment and said very seriously. Oh. So what if I do? Len Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Young lady, the current emperor of the White Tiger clan does not have the royal bloodline. Therefore, if this white tiger were to appear in the divine world, it would definitely cause an uproar in the White Tiger clan. I'm afraid that the White Tiger emperor will not let it go. The man said worriedly. At the same time, he was reminding Len Ruoxue to be more careful. This white tiger with the royal bloodline should not appear in front of the world before it had sufficient strength. Then where did the White Tiger clan's royal clan all go? Len Ruoxue asked curiously. Tens of thousands of years ago, the royal clan somehow offended an important figure in the divine world. Therefore, they were all sealed away. The current emperor was also supported by that important figure. Therefore, the current internal strife in the White Tiger race is extremely serious. Xiang, and I were implicated and severely injured because of the internal strife in the White Tiger race. The man explained. Where is the royal family sealed? Bai Xu raised his head and asked indifferently. He did not show much excitement when he heard the man's words, but his heart was definitely not calm. This was because the royal family that the man had said was sealed was his family. The abandoned land of the divine realm. The man said. The abandoned land? What was that place? How come I've never heard of it? Bai Xu's face was filled with question marks. When he left the divine realm back then, he had never heard of any abandoned land in the divine realm. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com. The place where the White Tiger King race is sealed is known as the abandoned land in the divine realm. Furthermore, not only the White Tiger King race, the Phoenix race, the Dragon race and the Qilin race's King race are also sealed. The man said. They were sealed together. Leng Ruoxue raised her brows and asked indifferently. She had heard from Feng Zhan that the Phoenix clan had been sealed. As for the other clans being sealed as well, this was the first time she had heard of it. No. They were sealed in the east, south, west and north of the divine world. The clansmen of our 4 clans who have always been loyal to the royal family have never given up on trying to rescue them. Unfortunately, they have never succeeded. The man said with a sigh. Oh. They're kind. Bai Xu said indifferently, then added, I'm a member of the royal family. However, I've left the divine realm for many years. Therefore, it's normal that no one in my family knows me. Your Highness. The man was stunned for a moment, but he reacted very quickly. Since the other party was a White Tiger King, then they naturally had to address the other party as Your Highness. Your Highness. The woman also hurriedly bowed. The ranking of beasts had always been very strict, and bloodline was supreme. Therefore, in front of this little white tiger, the 2 of them had to consider themselves as subordinates, even if the royal family was currently sealed. Yes, master, since they want to recognize you as their master, then you should take them in. Bai Xu nodded his head and said to Leng Ruoxue. All right, he said. Leng Ruoxue agreed. Now that Leng Ruoxue had agreed, the white tiger couple did not know what to do. It was an honor for any white tiger to have the same master as His Highness. However, it was also because of this that they were hesitant. Logically speaking, in front of His Highness Master, they could only be slaves. Even if His Highness had agreed, they would not dare to acknowledge Leng Ruoxue as their master. At the thought of this, the man and his wife exchanged glances and said, How would we dare to share the same master with Your Highness? We are willing to be your slaves and servants to serve Your Highness and young miss forever. If I tell you to admit it, then admit it. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Bai Xu squinted his eyes and said unhappily, Why were the subordinates of that damn bird so obedient, while his 2 clansmen were so stubborn? Wasn't it just acknowledging a master? Was there a need to think so much? Yes. Their legs trembled, and they almost knelt on the ground. Although the white tiger with the royal bloodline was in a mimicry form, the pressure from its natural bloodline was something they could not resist, even if they were also members of the white tiger race. After the white tiger couple carefully acknowledged their master, they told Leng Ruoxue and Bai Xu about the current situation of the white tiger race without holding back. However, the most they said was that Bai Xu should not show himself easily before he had enough strength. Otherwise, if he was discovered by the current Tiger Emperor, he would not let him off. Bai Xu was a little impatient from being repeatedly urged. He only indifferently glanced at the white tiger couple who were talking non-stop and said, I'm much older than you, so don't treat me like your son. After he finished speaking, he laid in Leng Ruoxue's arms and fell asleep. Looking at Bai Xu's smug expression and the dumbfounded white tiger couple, Leng Ruoxue could not help but laugh. Chapter 1312, Miss Yen, 2, Master, you're still smiling. The woman, Xiang, couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Ha ha ha. Should I cry if I don't laugh? I know you have good intentions, but as my beastie, if it can't even protect itself, then it's too useless. So, you don't have to worry about its safety. Leng Ruoxue reminded them, feeling a little amused. Her beasts were each more astute than the other. Any one of them would be able to fool everyone outside. Therefore, she was not worried that they would be schemed against or encounter any danger because the chances of that happening were too low. Yes, the couple said in unison. Bai Xian, you guys go and see roly-poly. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she spoke to the white tiger couple. Yes. Bai Xian and his wife nodded and turned to see their child. After they left, the demon smiled at Leng Ruoxue and said, Shui, what are your plans? As for the current plan. Of course, I'm going to raise my strength first. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Yes, improving our strength is indeed a top priority. Why don't we continue our closed-door cultivation? The demon said after some thought. If he stayed on the divine mainland, his strength would not be able to continue increasing. Therefore, he could only protect Shui, better by going to the divine world. However, the divine world was more dangerous than the divine mainland, so he was a little conflicted. Alright. However, we have to make a trip to northern Yen City before we go into closed-door training. Leng Ruoxue laughed. When are we going? The demon asked with a faint smile. Let's do it now. Leng Ruoxue lowered her head and thought for a moment. The demon nodded. Then, the two of them greeted Ziyu and went straight to the city lord's mansion in Yanbei City. When they arrived at the city lord's residence, Leng Ruoxue directly stated her purpose for coming. Yan Kun was stunned after hearing her and complained, why is young miss going into seclusion again? You haven't been in closed-door cultivation for long. I need to quickly increase my strength. That way, I'll be able to come and go as I please in the divine realm, Leng Ruoxue said honestly. My lady, the divine realm is much more dangerous than the divine continent. Yan Kun couldn't help but remind him. Please read on /myboxn0vl.com, I know, but I can't just stay in the divine continent and not improve just because the divine realm is dangerous. Moreover, the divine realm still has important things waiting for me to do. Leng Ruoxue explained. I'm afraid we don't know when Miss will come out of her closed-door cultivation. Why don't you stay in the city lord's mansion for a few days? Yan Kun said enthusiastically. Yes, we'll be staying here for a few days. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Miss, I'll have the butler take you to your residence first. I'll accompany you to the city tomorrow. Yan Kun suggested. Yes. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Then, Yan Kun ordered the butler to bring Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer to the fallen swallow residence. The last time they came to the city lord's mansion, they stayed in the fallen swallow residence, so they could be considered familiar with the place. When they arrived at the entrance of the fallen swallow residence, they sent the housekeeper away. The two of them stayed in the same room as last time. In the evening, Yan Kun sent people to bring them a lot of delicious food. However, Yan Kun did not accompany them for dinner. According to the steward, there was a guest in the city lord's mansion. The city where the guest lived had always maintained a good cooperative relationship with Yanbei City. The city lord knew that the two of them did not like to meet with messy people, so he accompanied them alone. The butler was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would be angry, so he kept apologizing. Butler, you've already apologized dozens of times. Leng Ruoxue was a little speechless as she asked. She couldn't help but wonder, could it be that I'm such a calculative person in the butler's heart? Miss, are you really not angry? The butler was still a little worried. Although he didn't agree with the city lord accompanying an outsider, he was the butler who served the young lady. After all, in his heart, the young lady was much more important than that person. This isn't a big deal. What's there to be angry about? Leng Ruoxue laughed. Actually, what she did not say was that if Yan Kun really came, she might even find him annoying. Hee hee. I'm at ease then. The butler heaved a sigh of relief. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's confirmation, he finally felt at ease. The next day, Yan Kun, who was supposed to accompany Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer for a walk around the city, could not make it as scheduled. However, he sent the steward to explain. When Leng Ruoxue heard this, she did not say much. She only told the steward to tell Yan Kun to accompany the guests and not to worry about her. Shua, do you want to go around the city by ourselves? The demon suggested. If you want to go, then let's go. I'm fine with it. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Then we won't go, let's go back to the room. The demon laughed evilly, clearly harboring ill intentions. TSK. I'll go back. Who's afraid of you? Leng Ruoxue refused to be outdone. Following that, she took the initiative to pull the demon back to her room. After a long time, Qing Ju interrupted the lovey-dovey couple in the bracelet. Sister, there's someone challenging us outside. Qing Ju said as if he was afraid that the world would not be in chaos. Ah. What kind of challenge? Leng Ruoxue was bewildered. Hee. There's a woman who came out of nowhere and has her eyes on this place. She wants to stay here and even ordered us to move out. Qing Ju explained happily. Oh. Just ignore it. Leng Ruoxue couldn't be bothered to deal with this kind of insensible and spoiled woman. Sister, that woman has started to smash things. All of them are money. And it's your money. You really don't feel bad? Qing Ju asked with a look of disbelief. Hee. The city lord's mansion's money was his sister's money, so he wasn't exaggerating. You still dare to smash things? Leng Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes, her tone clearly showing her displeasure. She could ignore the noise, but she couldn't smash things. It would be a waste. Yes, they've already started to smash it. If elder sister doesn't appear, the Falling Swallow residence will be destroyed. Qing Ju reminded. Demon, it seems like we won't be able to enjoy a few days of peace before we go into seclusion. Why is there always trouble? Leng Ruoxue sighed helplessly. This matter should have been handled by Yan Kun, but he was not in the residence at the moment.